as we approach the 15-year, well, it is the 15-year anniversary of the 7/7 bombings today, we'd like to revisit that day and find out what happened. The official story says that 4 suicide bombers with rucksacks full of explosives attacked central London, killing 52 people and injuring hundreds more. It was the worst single terrorist atrocity of British soil, and 15 years on, we look back at how those events unfolded on the 7th of July 2005.
Without the first, we definitely won't be the last. We'd like to welcome you. Another conspiracy cast.
Hello and welcome to another conspiracy podcast with your host Dean Sauter in Michigan in the USA, and on the other side of the pond we have JJ Jackson in historic York.
Hi.
And myself, Ben Mills, in sunny Southend. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hello.
Very excited for this one. Very good. I'm very excited for this one. I think because both myself and Ben have quite a personal attribute to it, if I remember correctly. I think, Ben, you said you were in Kings Cross at the time, yeah.
I was in Liverpool Street.
Right, yeah, I was literally three blocks away from Tavistock Square where the bus exploded. However, we will obviously get into those. But yeah, I'm super excited about this one because I've been aware of this conspiracy theory for quite a few years, but it wasn't until we decided to cover this for the anniversary that I didn't really know how deep this went. I knew like surface level things that sounded odd, but this goes like absurdly deep.
Yeah, I didn't know there was a conspiracy until last episode when you said we should do 7/7 bombings.
That surprises me.
I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about it. I just accepted the
official narrative. Yeah.
The official narrative that now I've read the official narrative, it is hogwash, I'd say. Hogwash.
So for the listener, what we
bullshit.
What we plan on doing on Not Another Conspiracy podcast is one of us will be leading the conspiracy fueled side of things, whereas the other will be on the fence to a degree, and I guess someone's kind of left in the lurch. So I myself I will try my hardest to lead, I guess, the way when it comes to the discrepancies with the official story and things that need answering and didn't get answered. Like I said, this is an incredibly deep conspiracy theory. There might be things that we miss out purely because we could be here all day if we wanted to talk about absolutely everything. Ben, again, like he said, had no idea about the terrorist attack, but it clearly sees a lot of things that I have been seeing for years. JJ, where do you lie with this as we introduce you to it?
I'm not going to lie, lads. I know absolutely fuck all about it.
Brilliant.
Up until you even mentioned it, I don't think I even realised there was a conspiracy behind it.
And
but as with any government involvement in anything, there always seems to be something lying in the depths, the murky waters.
Right.
So I'm excited to hear your guys' opinions on it. I mean, I've watched a few things, but...
And it's interesting because I've mentioned this to Ben that I'm so surprised that not a lot of people know about the 7/7 bombings, considering, as Ben mentioned, it's the single biggest terrorist atrocity in a single day in like British history. But yet so many people don't know about it. The amount of times I've brought it up while living in America here, that Americans haven't even heard of it. And it's bonkers. And the fact that the British government have got away with it for so long, and the amount of discrepancies that there are is just like mind-boggling.
It seems from obviously I've now watched everything that you've watched.
Yes.
I think you've probably watched it a few more times than I have.
Yes.
And it's going to be really hard to kind of, because I think I'm just going to play devil's advocate, even because I know enough that I can probe you and my stuff. But it seems to me like the government or the Home Office, to be more correct. Like it was the Home Office that have done their report and the Met Police and that. And it seems like it's one of two things. It's they just want to get rid of, just brush it under the carpet and have forget about it. It's done. This is our findings. These 4 men were guilty.
Yeah, this is what happened.
It was all on them.
Right.
Or it goes deeper and they were all involved. The whole government was involved in a cover up,
and the MI6 and whatnot.
Yeah, like it's either MI5 said at the time that these men were not known; they were clean skins.
Yeah,
when it first happened.
Yes, good phrase, clean skins. Yep.
I thought it was an awful phrase. Just like clean.
It's the phrase.
Skins. I was just like, I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to say that.
That shows knowledge.
I'm pretty sure you can't
knowledge
say
of the subject.
Yeah.
You can say that. So yeah,
The government can say
but
anything.
then obviously it's just the amount of times the official story has changed that it just for me just throws doubt into what actually happened.
Right. Yeah.
So should we go through kind of the day? Should we go through the day and what happened? The official story. Should we start with the official?
Yeah. We'll go through the official story, and there's a section that I want to put across to the viewers, or kind of like a history lesson as to what I want to do. I did discuss with you guys that I've called it, Ben labelled it quite well, doing a terrorism. We're going to call that section doing a terrorism as a history as to how the actual possibility that governments and intelligence agencies are capable of doing these things, and that they have attempted to do these things and these operations sometimes
successfully and non-successfully.
Sorry, Ben?
Successfully sometimes and sometimes not so successfully.
Right. And we know that because a lot of the operations that have been declassified over the years didn't happen. But it's the fact that there's a possibility. So, yeah, let's start from the beginning of July 7th, 2005. Ben, did you want to roll with this or did you want myself?
I mean, I can. I've got it in front of me.
Yes, go ahead then, mate. Yes, go ahead.
Broad strokes timeline of the day.
Perfect.
On July the 7th, 2005, at 8:50 a.m., which is rush hour, and if anyone who's been to London knows that anything between 7 a.m. and 9:30 a.m., it's chock-a-block.
Yep.
It's everyone coming into London. I think it's something like 10 million people come to London a day or something like that. It might be really high. It might be really high. Don't quote me on that, but it's a hefty number. Travel into London and use the underground every day. So at 8:50 a.m., three suicide bombers. I'm in
Quotations.
I shouldn't be giving it away too much, but 3 bombs went off. This is the official story, that 3 bombs went off on the London Underground on a train just outside Liverpool Street, killing 7 people. Mm-hmm. Train just outside Edgware Road, killing 6 people. And then a train between Kings Cross and Russell Square, killing 26 people. And then at 9:47 a.m., an hour later, a 4th bomb exploded on a double-decker bus at Tavistock Place, killing 13 people. And then later on in the afternoon, and this report has been kind of removed
murky,
from
right?
most. It's quite murky, but apparently 12 unexploded bombs were found in a car in Luton later that day.
In one car?
But in one car, yeah.
Wow.
And at the same time, so this is another report on the day. Peter Power, who is an ex-police officer.
Not an ex-man. Sorry. Great. Good shot.
Great. Great. And that's the end of the podcast. He was apparently, and this is this can lead us into when we start getting into the conspiracy of it. A man named Peter Power, who was an ex-police officer, part of the anti-terrorism branch, had started his own company, and they were running a training exercise that mirrored the actual attack so closely that he went on to the news to talk about it, going, "Oh, I was so surprised. It was, it went from an exercise to the real thing in a matter of moments." And he started laughing on the news report and stuff. It's really weird.
Yeah.
So that's
Am I right? That's when
in,
people started asking questions.
Am I right in thinking that was a similar theory to what happened at 9/11? There was like war games going on, and then the war games actually turned into
suspicious activities occurring, right? Yeah, suspect activities.
Yeah, the war games with 9/11 were the reason that jets couldn't be scrambled to take down the planes that had gone off course. Whereas they were training for an exercise like this as this happened.
Yeah,
it was the same thing.
And
so so Dean, what kind of the training exercise has a lot to do with some of the basis of the conspiracy theory, right?
Yes. And we'll come back to this very, very quickly, but there's a small little segment that happened prior to that also, that there were mock bomb exercises and mock bomb scares on the lead up to July 7th. And strikingly, there was an episode of Panorama. We're all British, we'll love Panorama, And,
and Peter Power was on Panorama, wasn't he?
Right. Let me get the date for this. On the 16th of May, 2004, there was a Panorama episode that was documenting, or at least, portraying a mock situation, an actual terrorist attack on London where 3 explosions would occur on the underground and 1 on a vehicle-based form of transport. So it wasn't a bus, as what they had said, but what it was, in the episode, they were sort of displaying what would occur and how it could be prevented, etc., if 3 bombs exploded.
It was basically in London. Inspiration.
Right, in London at this particular time, and how the government and the authorities and what people would expect, sort of thing. But again, like Ben was explaining, it was very, very strange that they just happened to pick a situation where 3 trains would explode and a vehicle would explode. But in the episode, it was a tanker full of chlorine that exploded, and obviously it put poisonous gas everywhere around the city of London. But one thing that was significant about, a lot of people call this, I can't remember what the phrase was, but it's like they're subconsciously preparing you to sit there and like expect, or at least
they're
not
leading
be
you,
suspicious.
They're leading you into it, aren't they?
Like a mental imprint.
It's seeding.
Yeah.
Right,
seeding
exactly. So there were a lot of bomb scares leading up to these, and then there was a Panorama episode portraying 4 explosions in and around London. It was all... now you can kind of look at it and be like, it's rather suspicious, all these odd coincidences that happen in the same way as the 7th of July are just appearing in front of us.
And they're all
so many.
They're all sat around the table, aren't they? You imagine any end of world bunker scenario where Donald Trump has to press the red button and is it Jeremy Paxman or whatever the fucking that guy's called?
Is it not?
What's his?
It's the other dickhead.
Who's that proper dickhead?
Yeah. I can't remember his name. Let's just say it's Jeremy Paxman. It's not. Sorry, Jeremy, if you watch it.
No, it's a politician, isn't it?
He's but he's like, and if this was to happen, it would cause. And they've got this like shitty dramatization of like people in hazmat suits walking around like ET and shit.
So after the Panorama episode, on the 5th of July, there were bomb scares in Nottingham and Sheffield. It turns out that they actually weren't bombs, though. It was just suspect package, but it wasn't, sort of thing. So more imprinting sort of going on into the mental psyche. But going back to Ben bringing up Peter Power, he's works for a company called Visor Consultants, and they are an emergency...
He owns the company.
He owns the company. Apologies. Right. Yeah. And
owned. Yeah.
Yeah. They deal with crisis management in situations, And on the morning of 7/7, he I don't know where he was being filmed from, but he was being transferred into like the BBC newsroom, and he was expressing, as Ben sat there and said, that saying, well, I was running a test drill or a crisis incident drill with a company of about 1,000 employees or about 1,000 people, and they just so happened, the drill just so happened to be the exact same situation as to what's going on now at the exact train stations that were occurring on that morning. Odd, crazy odd coincidence, if you ask me. Can
I?
Sure.
If you listen to in Ripple Effect and the guy goes 5, 7, 1, 7, 5, 0, 0, 0, 0, chances or something like that. It's 5 trillion or something like that.
50 fucking times as well. It's not even it isn't just the zeros that you did.
For the listeners,
like 20 more.
For the listeners that have no idea what we're talking about, in a particular documentary you've been using for research called Ripple Effect, the narrator ends up calculating what the alleged odds are that Peter Power of a crisis management company called Visor Consultants just so happens to be holding a terror-based formed drill at the exact same stations and locations of the explosions that happened on that morning of the 7/7 bombings.
But that number isn't for it to be happening on exactly the same day, exactly the same time. That's to be within 10 years.
What?
Like within a decade.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that number isn't. So that I think it's 35 trillion or something like that.
Yeah.
Or more.
It's 57 trillion, I think it was.
Yeah, 57 trillion to 1.
That's insane.
The exact same event, terrorism event, would happen within 10 years of the same exercise being that close.
That's crazy.
So mirroring it that...
It's a long time.
And as well, Peter Power was then later on, after sort of everything had unfolded, obviously he was being asked questions by independent investigators, and I don't know how long it took to come out, but for a long while he was saying that he couldn't name the company he was working for at that time that would... so, of course, that's going to sound suspicious immediately. And it's like, well, hold on a minute. Like, you're running this mass coincidence and you're laughing about it on the television after, like, tens of people have just been killed.
I heard
you
the
now
company
won't
was
tell us the...
Bush Blair.
Right, and you now can't divulge the company that you were doing this mock drill with that just so happened to mirror the exact terrorist attack that had occurred on that morning. Like, and it, again, not too sure how long after it came out, but he ended up revealing that the drill was for a publication company or a publishing company, like a book
publishing company,
like a book publishing company. Now, what does a book publishing company have to do? Like, why is it so awful to like not be able to name them immediately? Yeah. Like, why sit there and shroud? Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, it was the number of people that were doing the exercise changed as well. It went from being an in the moment 1,000 people like in the streets doing it to, oh no, it was just 6 of us in a boardroom doing it.
Oh yeah,
like, his story changed significantly.
Yeah, it was very very odd to say the least.
They were just having like a little game of Warhammer, like just placing things around.
So JJ, how does that
rolling dice?
Was you aware of that? The fact that there was a crisis management company running a drill that mirrored the exact same bombing locations of the underground and a vehicle explosion occurring, the exact same thing that Panorama did 2 years prior, on the same day of the biggest terrorist attack on the country that mirrored exactly those scenarios? What does that...
So I wasn't aware at the time, obviously, like... I'm trying to work out how old I was. It was 15 years ago, so I was like...
I was 19 at the time.
17, I think I was.
Yeah. Same here.
So I was like... Those things didn't even cross my mind, but like after watching the few things that you guys sent to me, I was just like, immediately you're like alarm bells straight away about the seedy underbelly of the government and who they're hiring to kind of like do these things. It must have been government who were hiring him to do them, or a transport system. Like logically, like it hit the transport service. People use that, like Ben said, like 10 million people or whatever use it. Maybe not use it, but go to London every day. So like you would think that the people who were hiring that guy to do this experiment or to like statistics would be to do with the transport system, the London Council, or anything around that area that would be affected by those scenarios. Obviously, people got killed in the actual event of it all, but it's very, very peculiar that they would trial that. If it was like if it was a trial, it would be peculiar that. But if as many bombs went off as the main narrative, 50 deaths. Obviously, there were still deaths. 50 actual deaths still aren't as bad as what it could have been. You know, out of 4 bombs, but then there's obviously, was there only 4 explosions? Because then it goes on to, you know, so.
So before we go any more into this rabbit hole, because I think that kind of ends the Peter Power involvement. Because you don't really, like, that's a coincidence that I think, if anything, it's a narrative that instead of, I don't think their narrative had much to do with the actual event. Like, I don't think that gameplay, that game that they were playing, that War Games thing. I think, if anything, that just made it easier for them to say this is what happened. Rather than, it seems to me like they went, oh well, that's what happened, and then like it seems like they just went, they were going to do that. That was going to be the main story, whatever happened that day. I think what actually happened on that day was completely different. But because I think there's definitely some government involvement in this.
No, me too.
I guess, Dean, you should definitely give that history lesson on how governments have fucked up their own people to go to war and more than once.
I mean, I know.
It's a thing.
Yeah, I know, and I've met people that don't think that governments don't always have like the best interest in its people, for the fact that governments would plan naughty things against their own people for the whole entire country's benefit. So we're going to go down
about it.
Yeah, we're going to go down a little.
My mother is the worst for it. She's just like, well, the government wouldn't just kill people for like profitable gain, would they? And I'm just like, yeah, mum.
Maybe if the government wasn't run by people who run the big companies that profit from them.
Right, yeah, exactly. So this little section that we're calling Doing a Terrorism, again, I'm kind of going to be reading a lot, so if I sound like I'm reading a script or I'm stumbling over words, I absolutely am, because there's so many and so much detail that what proves it. It doesn't need to prove anything. Basically, it's just governments attempting to do things for their own benefits and to basically lead, or at least try to convince the listener to be open-minded about these sorts of things. If you're not much of a conspiracy theorist, if you're listening. So, to begin with, I want to say that Blair had denied an independent and public inquiry into the incident 3 times by saying that it would be a ludicrous diversion in the fight against terrorism to look into the event that occurred that day and see if it is in fact everything that your government's telling you. He denied it 3 times. From a prime ministerial point of view, don't know if that's a word. If a prime minister is not allowing the people to look into this themselves, that immediately rings red flags to me. Because if the story was as solid and concrete as they portray it to be, why wouldn't they allow an incident that would go against what they know or believe is absolutely true? That, to me, is crafty.
And at the time, the opposition, the Tories, were going, we want to see this. Why won't Blair do the thing? Why won't it? And then as soon as they got into power, No, I don't think we need to
we're
do
going to put a gag order on that.
What do you know?
I remember...
Because you knew anyway.
Yeah, I remember watching, obviously through the documentaries and reading what we have, I remember it was like, that's Cameron. Why is Cameron asking for an independent investigation? I was like, he hates people. Like, he hates, like, commoners. And then obviously...
It was probably him.
Yeah. And then, like Ben
He was
said,
probably on the London Underground bombing.
as soon as they get into power, they're like, yeah, we're not going to be doing that. Oh, right, funny. But anyway, Western interruptions, as what we can use it as a subtitle. I'm going to call this one Operation It Wasn't Us, because there was never an official name given for it. And the article or the publication that I read it from also didn't have, like, a physical declassified document to, I guess, prove it. But it's historical. Like, it's absolutely known, like, in Great Britain. Anyway, in 1957, Harold Macmillan and President Dwight Eisenhower of the US approved a CIA and MI6 plan to stage fake border incidents as an excuse for an invasion by Syria's pro-Western neighbours, and then to eliminate the most influential politicians in Damascus, which was the capital. The documents approved by London and Washington named the Free Men. I'm not going to crucify their Arabic names because that would be insultive, to be perfectly honest. But three basically heads of military intelligence. One was the head of Syrian military intelligence, the chief of Syrian general staff, and the leader of the Syrian Communist Party. Basically, they were very pro-Soviet and carried a very anti-Western sort of approach to their government and their foresight to the rest of the world. The plans were discovered in the private papers of Duncan Sandys, who was Mr. Macmillan, the Prime Minister at the time. He was his defence secretary, and it was found by an international historical reader at Royal Holloway, University London, by Matthew Jones. They tried to assassinate 3 top politicians of Syria because they were anti-West and they were siding with the the Soviet Union at the time. So that's one thing that's common knowledge and known, and is quite nasty when it comes to like war games.
But they were communists,
right? Forever about communists.
They're bloody commies. Get the commies.
So this is quite a famous one, and is so famous that it's connected to the John F. Kennedy assassination, or at least it's part of the reasons that the US government would have wanted JFK assassinated. It's called Operation Northwoods. Has anyone, you two, heard of it?
Yeah, so I've just watched Legacy, which was all, it dives deep in the reasons why JFK could have possibly been not wanted.
There's so many. So many reasons.
I can't remember exactly what the North.
He loved having sex as well. He loved it. He was like
both him and his brother.
But apparently he didn't last very long, and he used to apparently it relieved his back pain. He had terrible back pain.
Bit of a Prince Andrew move there.
Little insights.
To be honest though, he used to fly girls in from like 17, 18 hours away. Like, if he didn't last very long,
that's an expensive flight.
A quick tug, yeah.
He didn't care. He didn't care, apparently. He did not give a fuck.
Well, he's the president. He'd just be like, I'll wait 17 hours. He might have had a tug and then another one.
All he's got to sit there and say, though, is done Marilyn Monroe. Like, you don't last long,
So did it.
Done Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe. Sorry.
She died, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, but JJ,
she did them both.
Before we interrupted you, sorry.
Oh no, I can't. Yeah, so sorry. I was watching Legacy, and it delved into the many reasons why, and most of them were opposition's agendas for him to be murdered, which I'm presuming are probably a lot to do with this kind of vibe.
Yeah,
a lot to do with Nazi bankers and people not wanting him because he wanted to give some money to people who needed it.
Yeah.
So they just shot his head off.
So Operation Northwoods is a very famous one, very, very famous one, because it was also mirrored to the 9/11 attacks, almost because of basically it was the alpha build of the 9/11 attacks, you could say. So in 1959, Fidel Castro came into power in Cuba, and with a strong communist government. He came into power in Cuba with a strong communist government and decided to form tight relations with the Soviet Union at the start. So, of course, the US aren't going to like that at all in any way, shape or form. This is something that they didn't want, especially like during the Cold War and that, having like Cuba start getting a bit chummy with the Soviets. So, Operation Northwood's proposed false flag attacks against the Cuban government that originated within the US Department of Defense and the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the US government. In 1962, the proposals called for the CIA and the US government operatives to both stage and actually commit acts of terror against American military and civilian targets to then blame them on the Cuban government and using it to justify a war against Cuba. And you can go into a deep dive into the document on because it's only in, I think, the last decade it was declassified. You can look into the document and all of the attacks that they were planning on doing and blame on their own soil and blaming it on the Cubans was to fly planes into the Twin Towers. Literally a carbon copy of 9/11. Exactly the same.
Is this the same false flag where they repainted a aeroplane and they flew it over? And then they had a remote control detonation. And so basically, just for people listening, there was two planes. One of them was full of civilians, and one of them was a dummy plane full of explosives. They set them both off at the same time. They diverted the one with the civilians back to the airport, but then the other one.
And all the civilians had. All the civilians were fake names as well. They all had assumed names. Yeah. So they were like, when they didn't die, and when they did die, they'd say all these people are dead, but they were already dead people.
And they basically flew it over. Am I right in thinking? Was it Israel?
I
think so. Yeah,
probably.
They flew it over like somewhere around there, just that general area, and then remote detonated it, and then claimed that somebody on the ground had shot them down, which then started the confrontation between that America and that area.
Yeah,
so and that's all declassified now. So it's all,
that's basically
you can read that, and it just shows you how deceptive the government can be. Just to
they did it recently. They did the same thing recently. They sent it to over Iran. They just put a plane up there. And Iran ignored it. They didn't.
Yeah, it was Russia, wasn't it? And it was just on the border. Yeah. Was it Serbia? Or something like that.
This is new news to me. I haven't heard this reported over here in the US.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
They basically they floated. So they floated it just on the border of these two countries, and they were hoping that so basically
one
the
of them
plane
would
flew in and out, and they were hoping that they would just quickly move out of the border and shoot it down. So it was like, you've shot us on our own land. Yeah. And then like Ben said, I don't think they did. Good on them.
And they reckon it was the Russians that flew the plane over, but Iran just ignored it.
Yeah, something
That's
like that.
Incredible. But
it was America.
Yeah, yesterday.
Only America do shit like that.
And it's just it's to say these events that can happen and could be false flag events are it's basically the past is just being suddenly. Yesterday's rumours are now today's declassified information. It's
and no one gives a fuck about them.
No one, no one seems to.
It was 40 years ago. They were a bit weird 40 years ago.
So
there's so many things coming out at the moment that people are digressing. But
it's because all the people that can be held
cancel
responsible.
Culture, is that what it's called?
Yeah. Because it's all the people that could be held responsible for these disgusting thoughts and even acts can no longer be held accountable because they're all dead.
Yeah.
So that's why
they all killed themselves.
Yeah, if it's not declassified, someone important to it's probably alive somewhere. But that was Operation Northwoods. It was basically a replica situation of 9/11, and it's a declassified document and one of the most famous ones because it mirrored 9/11 exactly the same. So 60 years in 60 years or maybe 100 years, they might declassify the documents about 9/11 too. The next one that's a little history lesson that I want to bring up is one called Operation Mongoose. It was an operation created after the failure of the Bay of Pigs. Now, that was a disaster. Ben, do you know a lot about that one? Because I don't know.
The Bay of Pigs? Not really. I know that they tried to blow up their own... They were trying to blow up their own boats off the coast of Vietnam.
I think
or something like that.
Oh, yeah,
is that the right one?
It was Cuba. It was an attempted infiltration of Cuba, and it failed like horrifically. And Kennedy had to apologise for it because it was an
but it happened under the previous president, right?
Right, yeah.
But Kennedy was the one that had to apologise.
Yes.
For it.
Well, no. Well, no, because I think he instructed it. So. It was an operation that was created after the failure of the Bay of Pigs, in which the CIA and the Department of Defense would create social instabilities within Cuba to provoke them into attacking the US, or to at least make Cuba look like the aggressors. Something inside it called Operation... This is really like a low blow. Within the Operation Mongoose, they had Operation Good Times, which was, within the plan of that, was to forge an image of Fidel Castro alongside beautiful women, gorging on like expensive food and wines and beer and stuff like that. To forge that image and spread it widely and distribute it with the caption, "My rations are different," and hope that it would create some sort of like instability socially. Which was freaking mind-blowing when I read that. I was like, photoshopping back in the 60s. I was like, wow.
Propaganda is definitely like it's just, that's the easiest way to get people wound up, man.
And it's
like the whole Brexit thing was, and like the whole like crooked Hillary and all that. It's all done by like AI and machines going, this will get people wound up. This will get these people to go all the way. Yeah, it's just insane, and it's just how easy it happens that now we live in a realm where all our information is given, we give everything up. Yeah, and we have just ads all day long. We can't ignore them; they just come up. Yeah, like you
can't get away from them. So
that's essentially what these politicians are doing, though, aren't they? They're essentially advertising themselves to the people and getting them to vote for them. Like, it's same side of a different coin, isn't it?
Right, yeah. So
different sides of the same coin.
So within Operation Mongoose, there was another one called Operation Breakup, and that would have aircraft and boat accidents occur that were loaded with corrosive materials, like in and around, just bombs blowing up and blaming it on, boats and aircraft blowing up and blaming it on the Cubans. Another one was called Operation Dirty Trick. Again, all of these operations are like declassified documents. They happened. Okay, so Operation.
So going back onto the last one, was that the Gulf of Tonkin?
No, not just yet. I've got that. I've got that one. Right. Yeah. See, another one everybody's aware of because it's famous. Right, Operation Dirty Trick.
Because it's declassified and it's a conspiracy theory that became true.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Everyone's mental until they tell you that you're not mental anymore. But it's all right because it's 4 years ago.
Yeah. So Operation Dirty Trick had an objective where that should anything happen to John Glenn, who was the first man to orbit the Earth and the Mercury flight, if anything happened to him on his way up to being the first man orbiting the Earth, they would simply blame it on the Cubans. At this point, it's like they're putting ideas into a fucking hat and just going, right, Ted. Operation Breakup.
So if the Nazi scientists failed on their rocket launch, they would then blame the Cubans.
Right. Yeah. That's mental. They're going into a hat. They're getting one person to pick something and be like, right, here's the crazy name, Operation Dirty Trick. All right, and okay, what happened with that?
Failed space launch.
Dead astronaut. Like, that must be what they're doing. They must have had a right fucking laugh thinking these up.
And then you've got like a team of writers all scuttling to their houses to write cool stories, and they're like, "This one wins. I've got it. There we go." And they come back the next day like,
Isn't that how David Bowie wrote lyrics?
Yeah.
Hey, I've heard this really cool way David Bowie wrote lyrics. We just put it all in a hat, and then that's what happens.
It's just like a game of Scrabble.
Fucking. I know you live there now, Dean, but the Americans are fucking lunatics.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. They do not give a fuck.
They're not allowed
crazy.
to celebrate July the 4th anymore, are they, either, which is weird, because it's cancel culture again.
Right, yeah. So,
Did you see the fireworks over LA? They literally looked like a war zone.
Well,
and
dude,
fireworks are banned in LA.
yeah, well,
It's
dude,
it's crazy.
I drove to work this morning, and like there was smog from all of like the fireworks the night before. Like the street I live on was still just smothered in, like shrouded in smoke. It was crazy. Oh, excuse me.
I fucking hate fireworks.
Yeah, I'm not a fan myself.
Put it out there.
Yeah.
I hate fireworks. If you've ever had dogs.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I hate them. I don't even own a dog.
Yeah.
Or if you're a skateboarder, because like trying to skate around after those little fucking barrels are all over the floor everywhere. Broken neck from a fucking 99p rocket.
And I've got 2 young children, man, and as soon as the fireworks start, I'm like, if they wake those kids up, I'm going around their house. I can't have this.
No.
And it's not like you'll struggle finding them.
No.
He's using his nuclear
You're fucking
blast,
beacon.
50 quid from Morrison's. Fucking shit everywhere.
So
Worst.
So next one we've got here is Operation Cyclone. Right, so Operation Cyclone was a CIA operation that had the USA fund, train and supply the Mujahideen. They were also supported by Britain's MI6, who conducted allegedly separate covert actions. It's not been divulged what their covert actions were, but they also chipped in with.
We don't release our
Clearly not.
indiscretions.
Yeah, right, so the funding
It might be used against us.
So funding
In a podcast.
Silly Americans releasing all their things.
Oh god. Right.
It's like when you're at school doing an exam and everyone's like trying to look at you like, no.
No. Oh, go on, buddy. Let's see what you got there. No. Did I just read?
Gracious, no.
Did I just read Paul McCartney?
We're giving all our secrets away.
No, that's another Paul McCartney, not the one in the Beatles. Okay, so
Fuck off.
the funding from the Americans officially began with $695 in 1979, and it was dramatically increased to 20 to 30 million per year in 1980. So the US CIA at that point and the British MI6 had funded what is now a known, and as far as it should be, a banned terrorist group called the Mujahideen.
Known.
Right.
Oh yes, yeah.
And then it eventually, near the end of the 1980s, it rose to $630 million per year.
To fund IS, basically.
Basically, like
Fund and train.
yeah, and it was also described as the biggest bequest to any third world insurgency. Right, so during the Soviet...
But what they were radicalized, they were trained, and they were armed, and they would basically go, right, you're going to Russia now, or you're going to... They hate you.
Yeah.
You want to kill all of these lot.
Cannon fodder.
Because they proper hate you.
Proper
you
hate
hate them, and you're going to
that
go
one,
get them.
that-
And they would just show up, and they would fly them in.
That
They'd
one
fly
said,
in like hundreds of thousands of...
that one over there said your mum likes goats. What? Right, so yeah. So
Crazy.
I heard your mum likes Jews.
She doesn't like Jews.
So during the Soviet and Afghan War, 1979 to 1989, it was speculated that CIA had connections with Osama bin Laden. This is also backed up with newspaper interview and a picture of Osama bin Laden in a British paper. Can't remember what one it was, but hopefully at some point Ben can maybe flash it on the screen in the editing. Or what we'll also mention is if anyone decides to join the Discord, a lot of this information that we're divulging, it will be included in a document, so you could find it in there. But yeah, getting back to it,
It was probably one of the ones that Robert Maxwell owned. Let's just say that.
Yeah. So, allegedly that the CIA, it was speculated that the CIA had connections with Osama bin Laden, who is obviously the person allegedly responsible for 9/11, and that they funded his Afghan fighters. The Guardian alleges that the CIA helped Osama bin Laden build an underground camp at Khost, which is the capital of Afghanistan, which bin Laden used to train the Mujahideen soldiers. The United States would then later attack the camp when bin Laden was held responsible for United States embassy bombings in Africa. That sounds like the biggest under the table agreement gone wrong at this point in the podcast. Like, we're just going to sell you.
It wasn't exactly a small thing, was it?
No, well, yeah, we're going to sell you.
The Iraqi war wasn't really.
We're going to give you all of these weapons. We're going to do all of this training, and then a few years later, we're going to come back with bigger and better guns. Because remember, we sold them to you, so they're all of our shit ones that we don't want anymore. Who's going to win this war?
Shit hand-me-downs.
Oh, it's crazy. So, US government officials and a number of other parties maintained that the US supported only the indigenous Afghan Mujahideen, not Osama bin Laden's, because he was a recognised terrorist. They denied that the CIA or any other American officials had contact with bin Laden. Lies, let alone armed, trained, coached, or indoctrinated him. Many American scholars and reporters have called the idea of the CIA-backed Al-Qaeda nonsense, sheer fantasy, and simply a folklore myth. But I'm pretty sure it's common knowledge and is filled with reputable evidence that they were funded by the CIA. Like,
this kind of sounds like the plot to Mighty Ducks.
Sorry?
It kind of sounds like the plot to the Mighty Ducks, where they've got no equipment and they're just a bunch of idiots who can't play ice hockey.
Right.
And then they eventually get new kit, and then
suddenly they're amazing.
Yeah. Coach Bombay goes to visit his boss, and it turns out his boss is in bed with the Hawks. Yeah. And he tries to get him to lose. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
The chances.
So it does.
Yeah, because they want.
Now I'm starting to see the Hollywood link.
The parallels between the Mighty Ducks and Osama bin Laden's involvement.
So we've got one of the last ones. I guess it was JJ's that I don't know, one of his favourites maybe, if you want to call it that, the Gulf of Tonkin. JJ, are you full on with that at all, or?
Nope.
Okay, no worries.
I just know that it was released and it was a really big conspiracy theory, and everyone was like, "Don't be stupid." And then they were like, "No, it did happen, but it's now late to do anything and too late to do anything about it." So
it did happen. We're sorry.
We lied.
Just going to say we lied.
And this 100% is the reason that America got to go to fight the Vietnam War, which I think they lost.
Yeah, like might not be much of a good idea. What an idiot idea! Who pulled that name and job out of the bloody hat? Who's responsible for that one?
He's just sat in the corner. I'm sorry.
Was that you, Dave? Sorry.
Fuck that one up.
Kill him.
Yeah, that's it. Sacrifice
I thought it'd be easy.
Make him hang himself.
They're poor and Asian. I thought we'd bash them.
Turned out they're just made pits full of sticks.
That's it, yeah.
Covered in their own shit.
So, on August the 2nd, 1964, a sea battle occurred. This is for people that have no idea what the Gulf of Tonkin is about. A sea battle occurred between the US and North Vietnamese in the Gulf of Tonkin. Both sides experienced damage to their vessels, and the North Vietnamese lost 4 men and suffered 6 casualties. 2 days later, a similar battle was claimed to have happened by the National Security Agency, the NSA. Based on the assumption that these 2 accidents occurred, the US Congress granted permission for military action, which resulted in airstrikes on North Vietnam and ongoing intervention in Southeast Asia. However, in 2005, the NSA, along with a lot of these declassified documents, along with Operation Northwoods that came out, a document said that from the Vietnam War, a document that was declassified from the Vietnam War period, included research that assessed the second attack had never happened. So in the top secret paper, Robert Henyock reported, Two startling findings emerged from the new research. First, it's not that simply that there is a different story as to what happened. No, it is the fact that no attack even happened that night. Further analytical errors and an obscuring of other information led the publication of onto more evidence. In truth, Hanoi's Navy was engaged in nothing that night but the salvage of 2 boats that were damaged on the same day. So there wasn't a small fight at all. It was just 2 damaged boats that were irrelevant. And then that became the reason for the Vietnam War.
America a bunch of cunts. Just a bunch of cunts.
Like,
it's basically just a biggest dick competition with America. They're just like, fuck it, we'll just blow this boat up and go over there and just burn them all or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
napalm was
so
a big thing.
last one is the closest. I've done them all in chronological order, basically, the ones that are glaring the most. Now, I remember this happening. I remember seeing it on TV, but not thinking much about it or anything like that. Just the story that kind of sits on the surface, but after researching it, it's like, what? So,
I remember it. I remember this as well. And I remember going, oh no, they've got 2 British soldiers, like, but they don't, and that's it. And that was it.
Yeah, they've been arrested.
No, like, deep dive.
Yeah, they're sitting on a concrete,
two British.
Sitting on a concrete floor, all tied up, like faces blurred. Oh, this looks serious. Yeah. And then nothing.
Yeah.
So,
and then you find out
why
what happened.
So as well, again, like I've mentioned, with a lot what we're talking about, it's in a Word document that we've all compiled together. And if you join the Discord, we'll have it pinned somewhere that you guys can also read and go to the sources where we've got all this information. In 2005, 2 British SAS soldiers dressed up as Muslims in Basra. Basra. Definitely not at the new camp. This didn't occur at the new camp at all. When you see the pictures from the Iraqi police of their disguises that they allegedly found them, it has to be something pulled from a sketch.
Yeah, it's like Little Britain. It's like
it's like so these.
They just went like, give us the cheapest Muslim costumes you've got, please.
It's terrible.
Gary, I just got these 2 Muslim outfits off eBay. Let's fucking whack them on and see if we get it through Basra. See they find out if it's us. Yeah, immediately arrested with a car full of fucking firearms and explosives because you look like you're dressed as like you've got as probably one of Prince. They've got as one of Prince Harry's Halloween outfits is what they are.
Say Prince Harry and Prince William.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the royalist playing up again.
You look at and you see the picture of the wigs. It's the wigs that give it away. It's like, how on earth did you think you could get away with this? Did you buy it for like $4.99 off Amazon and it came from China in the end or something? It was terrible.
Yeah, £21 delivery.
They were 2 British SAS soldiers dressed up as Muslims in Basra. They were caught by Iraqi police inside a car that was loaded with firearms and explosive devices. They were taken to a Basra police station. When reports surfaced, the military defence denied to comment on whether they were special forces working undercover or not. So the British Army sent armoured personnel carriers and helicopters in an assault on the prison that was holding... Secretly, by what was holding these soldiers prisoners. However, there were locals everywhere. And the Iraqi locals started firebombing all of the armoured vehicles and this, that, the other. It gets even weirder to show how kind of sick the British Army are as well. So local Iraqis fought back with 7 being killed and 40 injured. But the attack on the prison was a diversion as the 2 soldiers were rescued from a nearby house. So they sent a bunch of soldiers into a crowded rioting area that has just captured...
They committed a terrorism. They did a terrorism.
They did a terrorism. And it's like all of these locals were gathered outside this police station because 2 British soldiers had just been arrested, kind of a big deal out there. And then they've just gone and thrown in a load of armoured vehicles to try and get them out when they've just got all of these locals that have managed to end up creating Molotov cocktails and stuff like that.
Yeah,
They blew the fuck out of Basra to save these two men, but they just did it to diverge it. So these have killed 7 people and
40 plus
injured
people.
40 plus. just so then go, right, look this way, kill, dead. Right, we snuck out of the house. Instead of just doing the sneaky thing, like go full SAS, Special Army Soldiers is what the SAS stands for. They could have just done that bit. They could have just snuck in and got them.
It's crazy.
Bastards,
it's
mate.
absolute crazy.
Why didn't they just buy him another disguise and sneak him out as prison officers or something like that?
Yeah,
prison officers. Yeah.
Why don't you take this beard off and replace it with like a couple of scars?
Hold on, Dave.
Then,
I forgot I added this to my basket while I was shopping.
Why don't they do like what they did with Epstein and just like
just the YMCA, the village people.
Dressed as a native Indian and a police officer.
Yeah, the village people. Hey, the village people are playing Basra today.
It's like when they do
That's
those,
the
like,
village people costumes, not Israeli
things.
village people.
2 members of the village people.
So
arrested in Basra.
And they're all like, which ones? I hope it's the gay policeman. Oh, they're all gay, weren't they?
So the 2 soldiers were then rescued from a nearby house while this diversion went on. How they escaped from the prison, I don't know, but allegedly they were saying that there were also agents working inside the prison that managed to allow these SAS soldiers out of the prison to this local nearby house that they were then rescued for. The British originally refused to compensate for the damage and apologise when the local Iraqi security forces publicly accused them of the planning to plant bombs in a Basra city square. And that they then, the Iraqi security forces were like, well, if you're not going to admit to it, and we've proved that you are, we're not going to help you in this war or anything like this. And after they basically called the British Army's bluff in saying, well, if you're not going to apologise for it, we just won't help you anymore. The British actually caved in and they apologised for it and compensated the Iraqi government for the damage. What does that tell you?
It's like when your headmaster like drags you into a room and makes you apologise for something like forcefully.
Yeah.
Just like
You think he hasn't got
sorry, sir.
Yeah, you think he hasn't got evidence on you, so you're like, oh, you don't need to do that. When they sit there and be
you
like,
can't do anything. You're not my dad.
Yeah, and it's just like, well, you were going to
actually, son, I can.
Yeah. You were going to plant bombs in this city square. Here's the evidence. Oh shit! All right. Keep that away from the BBC. There you go. We're really sorry that our SAS soldiers did an oopsie on you.
When I was at school, I once was bribed by a teacher for my whole time at school because my cousin had asked me to draw a sword in the hand of a guy on a horse on a night, and I drew a massive dick. And my history teacher kept it in the drawer, just bribed me with it my whole school year, my whole school time. Every time he'd be like, Jackson, and he'd just look in his drawer, and there'd just be this fucking Knights Templar with a big dick coming out of his hand.
That's a great metaphor.
So basically,
for exactly like that.
So he had everything on me. Like I couldn't do anything in that class after that. So like the British Army.
Right. So in the end, the British caved because the Iraqi government sat there, or the Iraqi security forces were just like, "Yep, you were attempting to bomb us. We're going to tell everybody."
Looking in the drawer.
Yep. Look in the drawer. Oh, look what we got. All right. There you go. What do you want? So that concludes the small little history lesson that we're having here. But basically, all of that information is available in the document, like I told you, with sources. Governments do nasty things to benefit themselves. Your government doesn't care about you, the
bastards.
They're capable of doing it. Granted, a lot of these stories. Granted, these stories were a mix of US and UK, and although we're kind of divulging into a situation that we believe the UK have constructed, it's just a look that it's a worldwide thing. It's absolutely a worldwide thing.
And the main thing that came of this of the 7/7 bombings, the main thing that actually came of it is that we went to join America in
The Iraq War.
Iraq, which we weren't going to go. Like the British public was like, no, protesting daily. It wasn't going to happen, and then this happened. Like, and instantly, like
everyone was on board for it.
It's the same thing that happens. Same thing happened with the London Bridge bombing recently, along the general election. Like suddenly, loads of terrorism just started happening, and you know that we needed a strong Tory government for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
we do have to assert that it was a Labour government at the time of all this. You know, even though Tony Blair is questionable.
Yeah.
He had a red tie. He was Labour. He was for the working class.
Fucking, he looked like he was the fucking devil. He looked like the devil.
Yeah,
like fucking hell.
His wife had a weird smile.
But Noel Gallagher. Cherry
Blair. She's up there with Hillary Clinton. That one.
She's an ugly thing, isn't she?
Two-way on small boys.
Sure, yeah.
Oh, she's an horror bag, man.
One of them's eating the legs, the other one's eating the skull.
Oh. Right, so
yes.
Cants.
So it's been done before. It's not like, so we've set you up to say, look, it's been done. It's not a new thing for governments to create events that will lead people into the direction that they need to be led.
Yeah.
That little push.
Yeah, it does.
It's like a little push to get what they need and get what they want.
Yeah. So
unfortunately, it was at the, you know, some people lost their lives and limbs and stuff.
Yesterday's rumours were today's declassified information.
Yeah, exactly.
And they just keep coming out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which gives us more and more fodder every week.
Yep.
Or you could just do exactly what the UK have done and just gone with like the most basic, no information, official story, with no evidence, and that changes. That official story gets updated every time they get called out for something that couldn't have happened.
Right, yeah. And before we go any further, I just want to say as well, with the one that stands out about these attacks is what a lot of people say is they don't really line up with a terrorist attack. Whereas if you was to sit there and say what would be attacked in the UK if it was a terrorist attack, you'd either assume St Paul's Cathedral because it's big, Big Ben, a historical monument, or Canary Wharf because it's Canary Wharf. And I think that is the biggest like target that's like within London.
I think the Isle of Dogs or Houses of Parliament.
Right.
They're the
Guy Fawkes has been there, done that. He's like,
but
didn't work.
It didn't work. Yeah, don't do that.
Now we got fucking fireworks. God.
Our own 4th of July.
Yeah.
The guy just tried to burn the Houses of Parliament down.
So instead of hitting something massive and significant, 3 tube trains and a bus. What
bus.
It just doesn't. It's kind of
not tube stations.
Yeah, not tube stations. The trains, like themselves, stations weren't damaged. Like you have the twin
minimal damage.
Right? Yeah, but you have these whacking locations, historical locations, like the Oklahoma bombing, for instance. These humongous places, but yet this London one's like 3 little trains and like a bus. It doesn't stand out like a terrorist attack at all.
It doesn't feel like it was done for maximum impact.
No, yeah. Do you
know what I mean?
Right. It doesn't at all.
So,
but
the first thing that I'm not going to lie, I didn't do a lot of research on this, but
no, but you need to come into this blank. Though.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things that stood out was the amount of people saying that it didn't even feel like a bomb. Am I right in thinking that everyone said it was like an electrocution?
Yeah. Right.
And there was like...
Yeah, well, it was reported as power surges for all morning until the Tavistock Place bus. It was power surges. There was no mention of bombs. There was no mention of explosions. It was power surges.
Okay.
For all morning until there was this suspicious bus bomb went off in like the middle of nowhere.
So what time was it? How long after was the bus bomb? An hour. Right. Okay.
So yeah.
So but the bus bomb was directed into like a quiet square.
Okay. So and
we'll get back to
we'll get all to that all information. We're kind of just leading up really to the glaring situations as a timeline in a moment. But one thing I wanted to again point out that's kind of within the realm of what I was talking about in saying it doesn't stand out like a typical terrorist attack. Al-Qaeda or any terrorist group has never, ever, ever claimed responsibility for the 7/7 bombings. None of them have claimed anything whatsoever. Remember that crazy dude in Australia that held up like a coffee shop? Did you guys hear about that? One random guy held up a coffee shop in Australia, and it was on Sky, it was on BBC News and everything. He was holding people hostage inside, and he put a flag up of Al-Qaeda, and he was like, yeah, I'm from Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda didn't claim that incident. No, sorry, they were like, yeah, we're responsible for that. Yep, he's one of us. And after that whole incident went down, turns out the guy was just a local crazy fella. He had no connections to Al-Qaeda. It wasn't... Al-Qaeda just came out and just like, yeah, he's one of us. And then he was like, put a Muslim, Islamic Al-Qaeda flag up on the window of the coffee shop and was like, yeah, I'm doing this for Al-Qaeda. He had nothing to do with them. He wasn't an agent or anything like that. He was just a local nutcase that just
why did they claim
because it was a terrorist incident. So why one guy holding up a coffee shop in Australia is the biggest terrorist group on the planet claiming responsibility, yet the 7/7 bombings occur in London, they don't claim it. They don't claim responsibility for it. It's never been claimed. Why? Yeah, it's never been claimed.
It wasn't. Maybe it wasn't as big as they expected it, and it was kind of a bit of an embarrassment.
It ain't one guy with 40 people in a coffee shop. London, shut up. No, we ain't claiming that. Do you know what I mean? Like if they're going to claim one dude in a coffee shop, like from out of nowhere, they're not going to claim the 7/7 bombings.
Is that recent, the coffee shop guy?
No, it's not too recent. I don't know if Ben's doing some research in the back. I'm not sure. But at some point, I'll bring it into the document just to show you. Because I remember seeing it. I remember like physically seeing it on television. Because
I was thinking maybe they were just like starting to become a little bit irrelevant, and they were like the marketing team of Al-Qaeda. It was just like, come on guys, we need to push this a little bit more. No one cares about you anymore. It's like the Russians and ISIS and all that shit.
Like Emmanuel Adebayor, every transfer window, he always does something controversial just to get everybody like looking at him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know who that guy is.
I don't know. Yeah,
Emmanuel Adebayor, what are you talking about?
I thought you were just talking about another one of the terrorists.
No football references.
Right. Okay, so yeah, we're going to get into the timeline now, and this is the beginning, really, of where everything unfolded for me. That sat there and was just like, wait a minute, that don't add up. This is what kind of led me down the rabbit hole. So. It's a timeline of the impossible train journey, as it's known as.
Yeah.
So, JJ's
like a Harry Potter book.
It's fine. We can go through it. Yeah. I reckon. Can you? But you can hear us, right?
Oh, right. Okay.
Right, so we can just talk through it, and then you can ask questions when you get back.
So, okay, it's a timeline of the impossible train journey. And again, like I've said before, I'm going to be reading things because there's so much information, numbers and locations. It's hard to just remember it all off the top of your head. So officially by the government's narrative, it tells us that the 4 alleged bombers called the 7:40 train from Luton to Kings Cross Thameslink that arrived at 8:32, and then they were seen at 8:26 or 8:23 is when they arrived. They were seen by CCTV at 8:26. That's what it was labelled on the CCTV on the mainline platform,
or not labelled at all,
or not labelled at all.
It was blurred out.
Right. However, that possibility of them catching the 7:40 from Luton to King's Cross, arriving at 8:23 and being seen on CCTV on the main platform is impossible. That's the narrative that they have officially from the government to begin with. As Ben has mentioned, they've changed a few things, okay? This is the impossible train journey. The 7:40 was cancelled, never existed, and that was confirmed by the Justice for 7/7 group that want a public inquiry. They're like the most famous group that are fighting for it. They confirmed this by emailing Marie Burns, who at the time was Thameslink's customer relations. It was also reported by John Reid, the Home Secretary, that the bombers could have taken the 748 train. Okay? But with the reference to the actual train, Thameslink train, the original one that they took, let me start again from that one. But with reference to the actual Thameslink train times on July the 7th, it was found that the scenario could not be correct either. The 740 did not reach Kings Cross until 8:42. And that was 7 minutes after the eastbound Circle line that Shazad Tanweer was allegedly on had already departed King's Cross, which later exploded between Liverpool Street and Aldgate. The westbound Circle line heading from Edgware Road that had Mohammed Sadiq Khan on board, that was headed between Edgware and Paddington, had also already departed. So the alleged train that they got from Luton wouldn't have got to King's Cross at all. The second one that was in line to it wouldn't have arrived at King's Cross, that would then have coincided with the times released by the government of when they were on the main platform that was captured on CCTV and when they had departed the trains that blew up. And that was officially confirmed by Thameslink, a representative who gives out the timetables and discrepancies with the timetable that day. The trains had been cancelled and also delayed because there was interruption on the lines. So the official narrative of 740 and 748, if they couldn't catch the 740, wouldn't have added up. It is impossible for them to have been in central London at those times.
No way. There's no way. And I think if they got an earlier train, then they wouldn't have been able to appear on any of the CCTV that they appeared on.
Right.
But that obviously brings you into the CCTV footage, because they've only ever released of them arriving in Luton a still frame of that CCTV camera.
And this is where I go wild, because the photoshopping on the still is
we've got to this part of it. See, I don't think it's a photoshopped image. I haven't seen conclusive enough myself. So this is interesting from you, JJ. I want to hear this.
Right. So the first thing is that it's so bad. The quality is just horrendous.
Yeah.
It could have been
released
anybody.
a better quality version. Yeah. It's just a face. It's just a shape.
Yeah. They basically are Minecraft
in
characters.
A gate.
They're just blocky heads, creepers.
With some rails going through the guy's body.
Yeah,
the guy would have
one rail goes there straight through him, and then
the guy would have had to been about 3 foot tall for him to be in that position, and that is crazy.
And
it's absolutely mental.
If you were part of a terrorist faction, you wouldn't hang around together, would you? You'd be like, come on, boys, we should probably split up. Not all four of us. It's like the Abbey Road cover. They're all like walking in synchronization together.
Right. Yeah. Let's be honest, boys. It does look a bit weird. We've got these whacking great backpacks on. Like, we're already we've already got lots of prejudice against us at this. Like,
and do you know what? Trains are terrible in the morning. Should we go the night before? Yeah. Make sure we're definitely there. that's you would do that. You'd go the night before, and you wouldn't get on a train with CCTV. You wouldn't go together. It's just insane.
Especially with like the whole 9/11 thing. Like what you were saying, Dean. Like they've got prejudices against them anyway. Like, what should we do? Oh, four Muslim guys.
Yeah.
go to a train station with massive backpacks on.
Yeah.
All looking shifty as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's excuse me. It's absolutely insane. So as it goes from there with the time frame again. They're caught on like various CCTV images.
Never again together.
Yeah, like, well, there's some way you see them coming off of a platform into somewhere else. But then I believe it was, where is it on my little notes thing I've got here? I believe it was like 8:30 was the last time that they were seen together, if I remember. Damn it!
Do you reckon they all had a set of headphones, but they only had one iPod? So they were like, let's make sure we just get a 4-way splitter and we can listen to morning prayers, and then when we get there, we'll split up.
Probably.
Yeah, I think there's footage of them coming off a platform, but it's not the platform that they would have been coming off of if they'd been coming from the Thameslink.
Yeah, exactly.
And then after that, you don't see Tanweer, Sadiq Khan, or Jermaine Lindsay.
Yeah, Jermaine Lindsay. Yeah, or Mohammed Sadiq Khan.
You only see after that. You see who's the guy apparently blew up the bus.
His name was, I've got it here.
Richard Jones.
No, Hasib Hussain.
Yeah, you don't see. You only see Hasib Hussain after that because apparently everyone else got on tube trains.
Yes,
but like, I just think, and then he went to McDonald's, but there's no CCTV footage of that. Like.
This McDonald's thing as well.
When we get to the Tavistock bomb, we'll obviously bring that up because now we're jumping.
The CCTV overall though just is so dodgy. They've covered up all the dates and times are completely blurred out or not on there at all, or they're wrong,
or so bad you can't read them.
Time. Yeah, but like all those CCTV things run off a time code. They don't run off different times from each thing. They all run from
it's all one synchronized.
A centralized unit. It's a synchronized unit. It's not different times and dates. If they all plug into the same recorder.
Yeah, it's in sync.
So they're all in sync. Plus, it's a train station. It relies on the time being. So everything will be on the same time frame.
Right.
It feels like these are all cut together to build a narrative.
Yeah.
Like these are the men doing these things. Look, here's them all arriving at Luton Station on this day.
Yeah.
And the guy's got the wrong different coloured trousers on.
Yeah, I was going to get to that as well. They're like
he just had loads of different ones in his backpack.
Right. So so my question is, the official narrative of the Times doesn't make sense, even though it's been proven by Thameslink that the trains that they were claiming couldn't have arrived at King's Cross at the set times that the government say that they did, because they confirmed they were either cancelled or delayed. How could the bombers be seen on CCTV at 8:26 for the last time at King's Cross, Ben, what you were talking about, where the only train that they could have possibly caught was the 7:48 from Luton that would have had them arrived at King's Cross Thameslink at 8:42, yet they were seen at 8:26. Allegedly.
Time travellers.
Allegedly.
Well, they would. So the only way would have been them have to get an earlier train, but then that CCTV footage in Luton would then be. The Luton CCTV footage would then not make any sense.
Exactly. It can't. Yeah, it can't. And even you mentioning that the fact that the CCTV works on a time-coded system, it still would not sync up in any way, shape, or form. It's impossible.
Yeah.
It does not make sense. Yet
they would all have to be like 15 minutes fast or 15 minutes slow in so many different ways that it would mean that CCTV footage is completely useless.
Do they not
because
have?
You can never go. Oh, on Wednesday at 4 a.m. there was an attack.
Right.
You'd have to then go through the whole day because the times are all off.
Do they not have different? So, for instance, obviously you've got like your Virgin and your GNER and stuff. Do they not have different companies that deal with different? So surely then.
Well, no, because it's all done by the train stations themselves, not the.
Right.
It's all done by National Rail.
Okay.
But even if say Luton's time was out by 5 minutes, all the CCTV footage would be out by 5 minutes, not just one camera.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's not a time synced. So then they would have all the footage from King's Cross would then be, if it's 5 minutes out, it's all 5 minutes out, not one.
And it's all run by the same company across the whole entire network.
That's lost all the footage.
Yeah.
That's lost all the footage apparently for that day.
So it can't be looked back upon.
Yeah, that's why they've only got one frame of Luton.
They always seem to lose footage, don't they, when something important happens. Like, I've got these motion cameras in my house, in my garden and stuff, and the only thing it picks up is the useless shit that you don't need, but it doesn't pick up the postman who walks around my whole property trying to find somewhere to put the parcel. but it picks up the friendly cats that are like just
and the bird that landed and then took off. Yeah.
The harmless ones.
So another thing that popped up while we were researching, and that is widely known as well, Shazad Tamweer, that was allegedly on the eastbound Circle Line train. When they were travelling from Luton, they drove down from Luton. Mohammed Sadiq Khan, Shazad Tamweer, and Hamir,
Leeds, didn't they?
is it Hamir Hussain? They all travelled down from Luton. Leeds. To go, from Beeston to go down.
Beeston.
To go down to Luton Station. Now, there's also CCTV footage of Shazad Tamweer filling up petrol in the Nissan Micra, and in that clip, at stupid o'clock in the morning, I think it was like, oh yeah, I got it here. Sorry, 4:53. He's in white. He's in white tracksuit bottoms.
He's in white tracksuit.
White tracksuit bottoms. Goes into the station, pays. Sorry, JJ.
I'm saying one thing: don't travel from Beeston to Leeds in a Nissan Micra. Very uncomfortable. If you've got like 4 backpacks full of bombs,
3 of them as well.
Yeah. Oh, 3 of them, right?
Yeah,
okay.
3 of them, because Jermaine Lindsay came from Aylesbury. He met them across. We're gonna get to a car park incident when they all meet up a bit later. Another glaring thing that stands out that's left out by the government narrative. He's seen on the petrol station wearing white trousers. After filling up, they then leave, and they are picked up once again, very briefly, on a motorway CCTV camera.
It could be any car.
Could be any car.
Any car that could be.
But it's about that big. It's tiny. It's their car. They didn't stop anywhere else. But when they get into Luton Town car park, they on the CCTV footage coming into Luton Station, the famous one, none of them are wearing white trousers. And along the way, again, I'll get to the car park situation later, at no point is Shazad Tamweer shown to ever be changing trousers. And he was the driver. Why, in the famous Luton picture of when they're walking into the station, are they all wearing dark trousers, but yet on the petrol station image, he's wearing white tracksuit bottoms?
Photoshopped.
A bit of a glaring discrepancy.
Is there not a possibility that they could have, obviously from the petrol station to Luton, is there not a possibility that they could have pulled into
they'd be late for their train. They would have been late.
Yeah.
So maybe
they changed in the car. It's a Nissan Micra. It's very small.
And driving at the same time, performing some Mr. Bean shit, like trying to pull his trousers off and get him while he's driving. So that's again another time discrepancy for the fact of when they were seen at the petrol station and how long it takes to get to London at 5 o'clock in the morning down the M1. It's not going to be very busy. Do you know what I mean?
No,
so they're able to time that, and if they stopped anywhere, it would have had a discrepancy in them catching their trains and arriving when they did on CCTV footage inside the car park, but they didn't. So why is he not wearing white trousers? What's all that about? Very strange.
They were all wearing Adidas poppers over their trousers.
Yeah. Kappa was a big thing back there, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially. They were all strippers.
Damn village people.
There you go.
Okay,
so we're working it out. We don't need that private investigation. We know.
So we're in the area now of train times. They're in London. They're at Kings Cross. They are now departing onto their trains. Okay. So as Ben has mentioned earlier on in the podcast, the timeline that occurred. So at 8:50 a.m. simultaneously, as the government narrative says, simultaneously, literally within a minute of each other, all 3 bombs blow up on the trains. So it's a train just outside of Liverpool Street Station, killed 7 people. That was Shazad Tamweer. He went eastbound from King's Cross. A train just outside Edgware Station, killing 6 people, Mohammed Sadiq Khan. That was westbound. A train between King's Cross and Russell Square stations killing 26 people was Jermaine Lindsay. That all happened simultaneously at 8:50 a.m. Now, we'll go to the bus a bit later, but now this is we'll go to the bus now because then we'll start going to the situation of multiple bombs going off, more than 4. So after they've made their journeys, at 9:47, fourth suicide bomb, alleged, explodes on a double-decker bus at Tavistock Square, Tavistock Place, killing 13 people, and that was by Hasib Sain. That's a really the bus situation's a very, very strange one. So the narrative was that Hussein left King's Cross without catching a train. There's no explanation to that. Why three trains and one bus? Why not 2 trains and 2 buses? There's 4 of them. You know, just looking at
even how he got to that bus is like
odd.
Bizarre. Like how he got onto that bus, it's so weird the way he would have. Even like let's say he actually got that bus. Like he was aiming to get that bus. He got the number 90 bus up to Euston Square.
Yep. To only get
buses, got on the back on a bus going the other way, but that bus was then diverted into Tavistock Place.
Right.
But if he'd stayed on the 91, he would have gone to Tavistock Place anyway.
Yep. Makes absolutely
and that
no
bus,
sense.
He would never knew that. He never knew that bus was being diverted.
Yep.
There was no it wasn't like on diversion. The police cordoned off the road as the bus pulled off and told this bus to go into that bit. Like they as it happened, like it was pushed into that quieter street, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So he's come out of King's Cross. He's got on that number 91, which goes westbound towards.
Oh wait, we missed a bit.
Go on.
He went into McDonald's for about half an hour.
Oh yeah. So he went to McDonald's for breakfast. There's no CCTV provided of him being in McDonald's.
Fundamentalist Muslim going into McDonald's
for breakfast. There's no fillet of fish at breakfast. No fillet of fish.
There is
no
CCTV
CCTV
for him to eat at that time.
No CCTV anywhere. Nothing released about it. They said he went into. They said he
or close to
dry muffin.
And then he went to W.H. Smith's to buy probably a battery.
Allegedly.
They don't know, but probably allegedly a battery. And then he went to get the 91 bus to go to Euston, to stop outside Luton Station.
To then try to go
number
back.
30 bus back, which would have gone back to King's Cross that he just come from, but it was accidentally diverted and then he went bang.
Ended up in the location that his original bus would have got to. Now, to me, watching all of this situation unfold with Hasib, it looks like a person confused. Wasn't he the youngest out of all of them as well? I think he was 18 or something. He was the youngest out of all of them. Watching everyone else goes off to these trains and they all simultaneously blow their bombs up. Like they had a plan, like, right, at 8:50, let's do this, guys. Like, let's do it. Why was this then youngest one, like, not on a train, and the bomb exploded nearly an hour later? It looks
daylight saving set on his watch.
Yeah.
But
and he forgot his battery.
It looks.
So everyone else had a little walkie-talkie version, but he was like, "Oh,
the battery's gone.
Click,
Click. Bloody battery's gone.
I'll have to go get me fillet of fish and get me battery."
Do you know what?
That is me doing a Beeston accent, by the way. I'm from fucking York, which is like 30 miles away from Beeston, and it's terrible.
So we'll interject here as well. When you got, like JJ said, he hadn't been researching, but me and Ben have obviously looked into a bit. There's some other stuff that we're going to touch upon a bit later. But how obvious is the movie Four Lions, this situation, and Operation Crevice, like a complete influence for that movie?
It's incredible.
Like you just said, JJ,
incredible.
like forgetting his battery, like.
Yeah.
If that's the case, he looks like he's wandering around. Oh crap! Where was I supposed to go? I forgot my London Underground map. Oh no, I forgot my battery as well. Oh Christ Almighty!
I got my bleach. I got my nails. I ain't got my battery. I'll have to go to W.H. Smith's. Oh no, I'm a bit peckish. I'll get me fillet of fish. Oh shit! It's breakfast. I can't.
Oh bloody hell!
There's menu for me. Oh fuck! Yeah. Where's my bus? Oh.
My watch is an hour like late. Oh crap! I thought it was already 8:50. It's nearly 9.
Oh, it's set to Beeston time. Oh no!
1839.
Oh God!
You didn't tell me I'd gone through time zones.
Oh, for God's sake! So, oh my God, I hate that we're laughing at this, but I'm glad I introduced it because of 4 lines. We're laughing at the comedy. We're laughing at we're laughing at comedy, everybody.
Well, this is because obviously there's the main argument in Ripple Effect is that these 4 men had been recruited for Peter Power's
crisis situation
exercise.
Yes.
Yeah. So they'd been recruited for that, and so they were meant to act as bombers, do what they needed to do
At these exact
I
locations.
think what happened at these locations, I think what happened was they found out that maybe they weren't. Hasib heard the bombs go off before he'd maybe got lost, or maybe was meant to go somewhere else. And as soon as it became real, he started panicking, and he's gone to McDonald's.
Disappeared for an hour.
He's trying to disappeared for an hour, and then obviously he's got on this bus. He's got on a different bus because he's switching buses. Like,
right, it's not making sense. He looks panicked.
It's not making sense.
I mean,
he
London,
looks panicked.
London
And
is a
suddenly this bomb
confusing
goes off.
place.
But they never found it. They never found his body. Like, his body was like eviscerated.
Yeah.
How do you know that he wasn't off? Because then later on, 3 men reported to be killed at Canary Wharf.
Yeah.
So who's to say?
And I remember
these
that on the
blokes
day.
Hadn't gone. Oh no, the bombs are going off. The bombs are going. What do you mean? This is meant to be fake. This isn't real.
Yep.
Why are the bombs going off? Where do we go? They head off. They just go. Like, they don't know where. They don't know London.
They don't know what they're doing.
Confusing place.
Yeah.
And they could. And if you look at the trains that they could have got to Canary Wharf on the Jubilee line.
Easily, yeah.
So I reckon that this is what I think. If these men were involved in any way, they were meant to be part of this war games thing.
Yeah, and they were used as patsies.
Oh my God, we're being set up here.
Yeah. And you're not going to expect an 18-year-old Muslim kid with a whacking great backpack on him to come out of King's Cross and go, "Help me, I'm being set up as a suicide bomber." Like, at rush hour in London.
And that's if they even went to London at all.
Exactly, yeah, because there's... yeah.
Because those trains are just like all over the place. There's no way that CCTV
could be accurate.
Has them doing what? Yeah, there's no way it has them doing those bombs.
Yep.
Like, and then we get onto. I guess we move on to the trains themselves now.
Yeah.
Like the eyewitness accounts are trains going in completely different directions.
Right. Yeah.
To what? They couldn't be going on that train because that train was coming from Liverpool Street going towards King's Cross.
Yeah, like all these people that were filmed, like the survivors and passengers, almost, I'm pretty sure every piece of clip that we had seen of these survivors talking to reporters about incidents and being on the carriages or the carriages next to them, they were all saying they were going in opposite directions. There was one woman that had to correct the reporter. In the Indian woman with the I think she was holding like an umbrella or something like that. Yeah. She said, "Oh, you were going eastbound?" She's like, "No, I was coming from Aldgate and going like towards King's Cross." It was the carriage.
Sorry.
It was the carriage her carriage that had blown up. So how was it coming from west? How was it going like northbound from Aldgate through Aldgate to King's Cross? How was it doing that? Because
there was a lot of people like skeptics of the conspiracies saying, "Oh, these people are confused and stuff." But what people have got to remember is these are people's routes they take daily.
Yes,
they take them daily. It's not like, "Oh, I must have got on the wrong train, going the wrong way." Like, that's what people are saying as an argument against it. I'm like, it's not trauma. You take it's rush hour. You're going to work. You know what your train is. You don't accidentally get on the wrong one going the other way.
Yeah, no, and there's other discrepancies with like there's people that were in the actual bombs and stuff, and they were going to like say what I think those American sisters that are so annoying.
What were they called?
The Benton or
the Benton sisters.
The Benton sisters. Yeah,
Benton sisters. They are the most annoying 2 people I've ever listened to, and I had to switch it off. But they were going to the Tower of London.
Yep,
and they were in fucking like going towards Paddington, like away from, like they claimed they've been told that one of the trains was going to the Edgware Road one. That was it.
Yeah,
there's no way that train was going towards Edgware Road if they were coming from if they were going towards Paddington to Tower London, because Tower London is on the Circle line round that way.
Yep.
So why are they going to Edgware Road if they were going to the?
You got to get off at
London
Tower
Bridge.
Hill, and it's no.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot.
It's the other way around.
Yeah,
It's the way.
There's a lot.
It goes towards King's Cross.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are listening to this that me and Ben are talking because we know the London route, we know the underground, but you can corroborate these people's claims and stories with a London Underground map. Like, for instance, the famous photo of the woman, JJ has probably seen this, although he knows nothing about the conspiracy, of the woman holding the protective mask on her face and the guy sort of with his arms over her shoulders leading her to an ambulance, leading her out toward an ambulance. She's got the white mask on that's for like burns on the face. I can't remember what her name was, but you can research it, and she's obviously been interviewed. She was claiming that she was going to Canary Wharf, but she was heading westbound on the Circle line. Canary Wharf is like southeast. Why from King's Cross was she going westbound round the Circle line to get to Canary Wharf? It's on the opposite side of the underground. It makes no sense.
Even if you're trying to change trains, you wouldn't go back. You wouldn't go away from on the Circle line. You can get to the Jubilee line, or you'd go to West Ham probably. So you'd be on the Hammersmith and City to the Jubilee, and then you change, go 2 stops to Canary Wharf. It's so nerdy, isn't it? Oh, I could tell you how to get to
I agree with you, but it's essential that we divulge
with air conditioning.
But it's essential that we exaggerate and divulge how common knowledge these stations and routes are when you know London. And like JJ said, this is people's livelihoods. I would very much doubt that a shocking situation like this would throw your head off so much that when being interviewed about what direction of train you're taking, that you take daily to work, and they probably have been doing so for years. I don't think an A to B is just going to suddenly dissolve from your mind, even so much to confuse.
A lot of people in those moments, like they're in the shock, carried on going to work, or carried on or switched and started going home.
Right.
So they were in autopilot. You would do what your normal day would be.
Yes.
So they wouldn't just go, I was going this way, I changed trains, I'm lost, like I don't know. You just go, I'm going to work now, this is how I get to work every day.
Yeah.
You know that, I know that route to like 4 different offices in London that I go to a lot. I know those routes off the back of my hand, and I know alternative ways to do that as well.
Yes.
So you wouldn't just get confused. You'd be like going, if you did get confused, it'd be like in a different line, using a different line.
Yeah.
Or like, I don't know. It's just that whole thing just screams like this was power surges, and they've then turned it to be something else. That's what it seems to me.
Again, going back to passengers confusing information and forgetting things, or at least elaborating on the idea of that people can be in such shock that they completely forget where they're supposed to be going, even prior to like bombs going off. Okay, so there was a guy his name's Ian Wade, and at 9:35. Ian Wade of the BBC Finance Department called into BBC Radio. He initially said he hadn't seen anyone with serious injuries, that the explosion was a minor incident, and that he was evacuated off of the train in 15 minutes. He was on the carriage next to the one that had exploded, that the explosion had occurred on. Ian's wife Eve told The Independent the next day, who was also with Ian at the time. She said that she saw numerous people with injuries, whereas Ian said he didn't see anybody. Numerous people with injuries on her way out of the tunnel. Now, the day after her interview occurred, Ian then gave another interview to the BBC, saying that the carriage in front of him had more significant damage, the carriage that had obviously blown up, and that his carriage had more significant damage, and that the explosion was on the ceiling, and that he remembers seeing blood and people with lost limbs. Now, his first interview, when he called into the BBC to say that, it was just a minor incident. Yeah, there was a bang. There weren't really much. It full up with soot and this, that, the other. And we was on there for about 15 minutes and then we got escorted off. That's very different from saying that, the carriage was mangled. There was people laying on the floor, blood. People lost their limbs. It's a big stretch for someone that's in shock. Now, shock works the reverse, from what I know.
It would be more dramatic, essentially.
It would be more dramatic initially.
Unless with no retrospect.
There you go. I mean, my past job that I had, I dealt with lifeguard. I was a lifeguard. And when you rescue someone that is in a panic for about 2 or 3 seconds or 5 seconds and they're trying to tread water, they then sit and go, I was treading water for like a minute before anyone showed up. I've had it before. And we look at CCTV and it's a matter of seconds. Stuff like JJ was saying, when you get shocked, it's more exaggerated and it calms down with progress, with time. This, on the other hand, there was nothing. But then in his last interview, he's like, there was bodies everywhere, blood.
Yeah, it got worse and worse and worse the more he was interviewed.
Didn't make sense.
What would be his what would be essentially his agenda from that, though? So do you reckon someone in the BBC told him and said...
Well, it's an inaccurate account. And whether or not it was... And again, he's working for the BBC too. So you might want to sit there and be like, have they had someone phone in and deliberately quick?
Well,
go on, Bev.
Well, that goes back to that panorama thing. They said that the BBC there's an act, there's a TV act and I forgot his name again. The politician, I found it, but I forgot his name.
I'll find it
again. But he basically said. One guy goes, we have the powers to. We have the powers to take over the BBC. We will drive the narrative. We will tell people what we want people to hear. And then Michael Portillo.
Hey, there we go.
That's it.
Michael Portillo, that fucking
smarmy prick.
He's a prick, Tory. Smarmy fucking Tory.
He's got a rubbery face.
I think he was a Labour, but he looks like a spitting image character.
One of those things on a lollipop from the seaside.
He then obviously goes, tones it down a bit. He goes, we would tell the BBC, we'd give the BBC the information they needed, but we wouldn't take control. We wouldn't have the power.
Almost as if
although we had the power.
Almost as if, don't say that. Oh Christ, I bet. Let me make this worse than it sounds.
The BBC is the biggest propaganda machine for the government. Yep. Fucking, it's just as bad as Fox News. It's terrible. They are so government aligned. It's unreal. Yep. And on this day, it's the story changes throughout the day from power surges all morning until Tony Blair comes out and says it's Muslims. It was the Muslims.
It was an inaccurate.
Straight away, it was it clearly is.
Yeah, and there was no evidence
and it wasn't
pointed towards it. And as well, keeping quickly with what Ben.
But the evidence leads. Historically, the evidence leads to being an IRA attack.
Yeah, yes.
It should have been. This could have been an IRA. This could be. The evidence says, based on what has happened, if it was bombs, which no one says it's bombs until 11 o'clock, it would be an IRA attack, or it would have been good. It could be the IRA. It could be Islam. No one's claimed it.
Exactly.
No one's claimed it. So you don't go to Islam.
Now this is
you go to what is the most realistic.
Yeah. Now keep him.
Sorry,
no, you're good.
Very heated
You're good. It's a good point though, because I wasn't going to bring that up, but it was something that I had noted. So keeping with what Ben had said with the inaccuracies of the story and this, that, the other. So the immediate aftermath of what has happened, the 3 tube bombs have gone off, and also the Tavistock Square bus has also exploded. So I've got a chronological order of the most significant news reports and radio broadcasts that lead even more to a lot of inaccuracies. So at 10 a.m, BBC Radio confirmed that there had been explosions reported at Aldgate, Edgware Road, Kings Cross, Old Street and Russell Square. Then at 10:46, BBC Radio then reported that they had heard, with confirmation from the Met Police, 3 bus explosions had occurred on top of the explosions or incidents that had just occurred at Aldgate, Edgware, Kings Cross, Old Street and Russell Square. 3 bus explosions. That was at 10:46. 10:55, BBC Radio then report again that police are investigating incidents at Edgware Road, Kings Cross, Liverpool Street, Russell Square, Aldgate East, Moorgate, and also the 3 bus explosions. That's 6 train stations there.
Yeah, but but Aldgate East, Moorgate, and Liverpool Street, they're relatively
very
close.
close vicinity with each other.
So you could say that something happened in between those stations.
But also 3 buses. Yeah,
I don't.
So.
Yeah. And the 3 buses.
What? Like, where did that come from? Because I remember hearing about multiple explosions. Again, because I was round the corner when the Tavistock one blew up, I heard it. I remember hearing throughout the day that people had said that there were 2 other bus explosions. How do you just... 2 bus explosions. Oh, yeah, and even the police have confirmed it. What? Where are these?
I don't want to be that guy.
No, but you're meant to.
When obviously things like that are happening, you're getting the news as and when it's coming out, and so people, do get confused and do get that kind of element where, one guy sees an explosion and he's on the other side of the road, and another guy sees an explosion, he's on the other side of the road. It's one of them. So, I mean, is there any evidence that there was 3 other buses? Is there any photos?
No.
Nothing.
Okay.
Absolutely nothing.
So, I mean, I think that's quite hard to cover up.
Right. I can.
That many people there. I mean, camera phones were a thing.
A lot of these.
They weren't. It was 2005.
Yeah.
Not 1985.
What I see here is the fact that they were just trying to report as much as possible, get sensationalist journalism.
Right,
here.
yes.
It's just like, there's another one gone off. Reports of another one. It could be someone putting the shutters down on a fucking
And those
building.
3 buses...
You slam them down hard.
Yeah, those 2 buses as well.
Especially in London.
2 buses as well could have been suspect packages. Like... So, okay, 11:40.
Shark!
So at 11:40 on BBC World, 7 explosions had been confirmed allegedly by the Met Police. 8:51, Moorgate, Liverpool Street, and Aldgate East on BBC World. 8:56, Kings Cross, Russell Square, and then 9:17 by Brian Paddock of the Met Police. He himself said that there had been an explosion at the Edgware Underground at 9:17.
Yeah.
8:50 was when 3 train explosions occurred. 9:47 was the Tavistock Square. Between the bus explosion and the train explosions, the Met Police confirmed another explosion on a train at Edgware Road. That story just dissipated nowhere. No information about that one anymore. That's significant.
Could there have been a possibility of fallout? Obviously.
Oh yeah, I imagine there could have been.
So there could have essentially been bricks or something fall down, which would create
engineer turn something on or fixing something by mistake. Bang. Yeah.
Just a thought.
Yeah, but I still can't. I can't get away from these power surges because the amount of people, and I'm saying the significant amount of the people that have been interviewed have said that they felt like they were being electrocuted.
Yes.
They didn't feel like they were being blown up. They felt like, especially the Benton sisters, all the different trains. The power surge thing to me seems like the power surge happened.
Yes.
A lot of people said it felt like they were being derailed and touching the tracks and they were getting electrocuted. No one on those first immediate aftermath interviews or further on, because a lot of people have been interviewed later on and they've said it felt like I was being electrocuted.
Right, yeah.
I've never been blown up, but I can't imagine it feels like you're being electrocuted.
Right, exactly, yeah. It sounds rather peculiar.
I mean, I guess when you're in kind of any situation where there's explosions and metal, there's going to be vibration. which has the simulation of being electrocuted. There's one woman, she says, I felt like I was having 1,000 volts put through me, and I'm just
it's like
have you ever had 1 volt put through you? Or
right?
I've never been electrocuted. I mean,
we've all put our tongue on a square battery like when we were a kid. That's 12 volts.
That apparently just tastes like vagina.
I've electrocuted myself quite a few times.
Oh yeah,
and it's
not pretty.
It's that numb. It's a numb feeling, like a numb feeling. It's not. It's like it's like it's not like it wouldn't feel like pressure. It wouldn't feel like someone, because an explosion. Like, we've all been around
something
like
blowing up,
an aerosol can being put in a fire. Yeah, you feel it like
your insides
like,
move.
You do that.
Yeah,
but an electrocution, it's like and it's like a magnetism to it. It's like it's like
Oh, for God's sake. Tony straight away. He's just like, I heard someone say Islam.
Pulling names out of hat again, isn't they? Electrocution. Fuck off. Islam. There we go. We got one. Quick, run it up to him.
It's like the Paul is dead thing all over again. If you play this guy screaming backwards, he says this.
Power surge.
And then slam.
Power surge for a terrorist attack. We fucking. Here we go.
It goes. I was slammed against. I slammed.
Tony Blair probably fucking heard it though with those fucking ears. You could probably hear explosions in Afghanistan.
Oh God. But
I can't get away from that.
You can go and see all of these interviews that we're talking about. We will link the Seeds of Destruction documentary that everybody can watch. That we also that Seeds of Destruction one for me is a lot more level-headed and a lot more like whereas the ripple effect, like Ripple Effect 1 and 2, which 2 is like kind of like an extended cut. It's interesting, and it does like it's clearly biased towards the conspiracy
this
itself.
This wasn't a Muslim attack, right? Yeah, but it's quite, I don't know, clutching at straws.
Yeah, whereas the Seeds of
and the guy who
was Seeds of Destruction.
The guy Muhammad Adib or whatever he's called from. So it's a fake name. So the guy obviously didn't want to get any harassment.
Ripple Effect. Yeah.
But when they actually found him, he used to claim he was Jesus Christ or the second coming of Jesus Christ, and then he's had loads of false allegations and fraud claims against him. So I mean, it pretty much writes him off.
Yeah. So we like we said,
well, he was like the instigator of it all. So like he was sending out DVDs to people, putting ideas into people's heads, which was again the problem, because then you've got 3 different narratives or 2 different narratives, and then it starts getting very confusing. Yeah. A lot of the stuff he has to say is like legit what we're talking about now, but
but whereas the Seeds of
he just seems like it's an interesting listen watch, especially the 2-hour one, because he does go into a bit more detail and he does kind of bring up more things, and it's better. Like, it's a better made documentary, and it does go into the fact that how he was definitely singled out as like someone we need to silence. It felt like he was being silenced.
Well, that's essentially what the other narrative is, isn't it? That he's like, it's like what they do with everybody. It's probably what they'll do with us. They're like, oh, those guys are fucking crazy. Those guys are crazy. Don't listen to them. They're just crazy.
No.
You know.
We're white, non-Muslim. We are absolutely fine.
Yeah.
We're white.
We're absolutely fine. You know, white privilege works when you're in a podcast.
Yeah, you say that until I'm found dead, and then that'd be the worst. That would be the worst thing. Like, I keep having all these thoughts.
You will get suicided.
Yeah, exactly. And then everyone thinks that you've killed yourself, and you're like in your little spirit world. You're just
you'll get Hillary Clinton.
I just knew the truth.
I do.
You'll get Hillary Clinton, no doubt.
JJ's been.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, he's been suicided. He ran himself over with his car.
He did a Brian Harvey.
I was going to say the guy from E17. trying to get his jacket potatoes that had rolled out of the car.
It wasn't that he said he'd eaten too many jacket potatoes.
I just had this vision of these jacket potatoes rolling down his drive, and he was like, woo! And then he hasn't put his handbrake on, and he's like, ah!
We need to do an episode on the Brian Harvey incident.
He's a proper nutcase, man. He's gone like full conspiracy theorist now. He's crazy, dude. He's got a YouTube channel.
And Robbie Williams.
We need
Robbie
a full.
Williams has as well.
So right,
but like, so
we'll get back to where we left off. Seeds of Destruction.
Like
all
said,
these interviews, you can find it in that documentary.
Yeah. So. But until, was it 11 o'clock? Well, I've got my notes. Let me get my notes now because this is where I started paying attention. Right. So until 11 a.m., when Tony Blair made his first public address about this, it was power surges. There was no mention. Well, there was the bus explosion and power surges. So up until 10 to 9, when the bus went off, it was only power surges. And then at 10 to 9, there was a bomb on the bus. And at 11 a.m., Tony Blair comes out and just goes, these Islamic
fundamentalists
are destroying Britain, and we will not have anything to do with them. We should attack Islam. Islam is to blame for this. I am Tony Blair. I am a cunt. And I was the most Tory leader of the Labour Party, and my wife is scary to look at.
That's a great impression.
Tony Blair should be in fucking prison for war.
Yeah.
He's a fucking how the Labour Party elected. I guess they just wanted to get into power because they haven't been in power since Tony Blair, and he was the only that middle ground of all these Brits who just want Tory government. They were like, oh, he's quite safe. Let's get Tony in. This country's been fucked.
His wife's a bit of an aura bag. His wife's a bit of an aura bag. I bet he's pissed off. Let's get him in power.
This country to me, is the worst. But Tony Blair comes out at 11 o'clock, straight to Islam. To this day, no one has claimed responsibility for this. To this day, and Tony Blair, without any evidence, goes straight to Islam because he wanted to fund his war. He wanted us all to go to war with his fucking bum chum, George Bush, who no one wanted to go to this war. No one in England wanted this war. No one. It was
campaigned and protested against.
That was this. Totally, it was we did what America couldn't, and we fought this war to the fact that we weren't going to go, and then bang. Suddenly, these power surges turn into explosions. 4 blokes who were clean skins and not known to the
authorities,
to the MI5, to the authorities or anyone. Suddenly, they've set off these 4 bombs that was 9 explosions at one point, and then 7, and then it's crazy. The whole thing's crazy, and it lends itself to being military grade explosions, not homegrown.
So just quickly attaching to what Ben has just said there. Before the 7/7 bombings, there was a successful operation by the MI5, called Operation Crevice, and they had been tracking a group of about 40, didn't they say, in total? They had 40 fundamentalists that they believed were a high risk. And they'd been tracking them for months, and then there was a big swoop. They managed to raid several places and arrest them all and convict a few of them.
Yeah, there's fertilizer bombs and stuff.
Right, and they found
fertilizer bombs.
And amongst photos, when Operation Crevice was reported by the BBC and that the MI5 had released information about it and saying we had these photographs while we were following them, Mohammed Sadiq Khan and Shazed Tamwir were both seen mixing with these fundamentalists on several occasions, photos taken of them with these people, even audio evidence of Mohammed Sadiq Khan asking the head guy of this particular group, allegedly asking him if he was a terrorist.
No, it's Tamwir and Mohammed Sadiq Khan having a conversation in a car, and Tamwir goes, "Are we terrorists?" And he just says, "We're working through." They work.
That's it,
us. Because they owned the bookshop, didn't they? They worked out that bookshop. The Islamic bullshit.
Right. But those both went on to obviously commit the 7/7 bombings. They were not arrested or picked up by MI5 when this Operation Crevice was going on. They even were forgotten about. They were pushed aside. They weren't tracked. Yet they were photographed.
Something like they're involved. They're involved 1%, like of all the connections, all the links, and everything. I think 1% led them to those two. So they were just seen as not even people of interest. They would just happen to be involved in a conversation.
Right.
Once. Like it comes back to the bookshop that I think Mohammed Sadiq Khan was involved with, or owned, or operated. Like that was just somewhere where people met, and that I think that's how he was involved and how they were
what they
involved.
believe.
I'm not sure how much they were involved.
And it was that the person that owned that bookshop that I think it was in Dewsbury, wasn't it? I think it was in Dewsbury where Mohammed Sadiq Khan and Tanweer volunteered. It was owned by a Muslim convert called Martin McDade. And if anybody has seen Four Lions, this person, what was his name? Martin McDade, sorry. I'm sure it was Martin McDade.
Yeah,
He's
ex-SAS.
He's allegedly ex-Secret Service as well, which raises concerns here and there. But if you've seen the movie Four Lions, he's blatantly they've blatantly based the Muslim convert in the movie on this guy, because it sounds like this guy that owned this radicalized bookshop loved to talk shit. But he had also been connected to MI5 at certain points. Like they had been watching him or something. He had testified certain pieces.
Well, he was apparently a MI5
informant. Right, because he
was ex-military. He was like he'd served in,
and he
some
had
wars,
testified against these people that were involved in this raid. So he was known to the authorities, and he was a good sort of person that they wanted on their books. Mohammed Sadiq Khan and Tanweer then worked at this bookshop with him, but yet he isn't sort of connected or anything to do with the two of them being involved in the 7/7 bombings. The fact that he's known allegedly as a radicalized Muslim, but they don't think he had anything to do with the two bombers that just happened to work in his shop and also blow themselves up on the tube trains.
There's also Q. There's that who's another informant that no one's willing to talk about. Q.
Yeah, he's just a person that is.
He is named. He's named in Caesar Deconstruction.
Yeah,
he's named.
It was literally the last part I just watched.
I can't remember
what it's called.
Yeah, but he is never ever been interviewed, called in by the police, anything. And he was like apparently the mastermind, or he was definitely the person. He should be a person of interest, because he was like heavily involved. But I think he was an agent, or he was definitely someone,
possibly someone that
he was
possibly a person that helped hire these four to be involved in this.
I don't think it just brings it back to these four not having a fucking Scooby-Doo.
Having no idea what they were doing.
I feel like they weren't doing what they have been set up to be doing. I don't know why. It's a gut instinct, because the evidence leads me like. I am normally the person that goes, like in last episode with the Paul is dead thing. I'm normally the one that goes, yeah, I see it, but this one, these four blokes just don't feel like, and a lot of people, if you watch like the documentary
Seeds of Deconstruction,
a lot of people feel the same way. Yeah, a lot of people feel the same way. They don't feel like these guys could be involved with it, and then they managed to like scare one of their wives into testifying against the husband and then shipping her off somewhere.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that too.
The White Widow.
That's it. The White Widow.
The White Widow, I think.
The documentary that I watched, the independent one, I'll link that to you guys as well, because they go and interview like a group of Muslim lads who play football. They all play football together on this field in Beeston.
Yeah.
And they all say, you know, they're all giving testimony of how great these lads were and how much ambition and stuff they had to do. I mean, obviously they didn't have ambition. Like, I think for somebody who knows that they're going to be going and bombing places,
blowing themselves up, yeah.
You don't have ambition, do you? You don't talk about the things you're going to do in the future. It's like you kind of know that, you know, unless it is like a trickle down system of how that works. Like you're the new recruit and this is how you prove yourself. But you can't really work your way up to the top, can you? If your first mission is to blow up and kill yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of doesn't really work like the Freemasons. Like you suck someone off and you get onto the next level. It's like you know you have to
It just From testimony of people that knew them,
I'll find that link.
All the stuff that we've talked about, it just doesn't seem like these four blokes were involved like that. It feels like they were maybe they knew who these people were and they were set up. You know, they were involved. Like, I feel like they were set up. I feel like they were patsies.
Just one point. You know, they said they referred to them as like, is it clean skins or whatever, saying that they had no previous. Yeah. Why do they have mugshots of them?
Yeah.
That's never even.
No, they're like passport. They're passport pictures.
Right.
They're really high quality, and they've been like if you one of the documentaries I was watching, they showed the picture that's been turned to look like a mugshot.
Right.
Oh, really?
I was going to say,
so it's a high res image.
They do look at.
It's a high res image and then they fuck it up. They fuck the picture up. They bitmap it. They make it look like a photocopy.
No.
Huh.
Like seriously, they turn it into like a mugshot.
That's so strange.
I think it's in Ripple Effect. That's in Ripple Effect.
I'll have to get back to that one.
They take like a high-res image. Yeah, they take a high-res image and they make it look like a mugshot.
So the last piece of...
And they're their passport pictures and their train pictures.
They're little
That's
train
what they are. They're not mugshots.
Yeah. So...
Yeah, they're not actually... But that brings you back to another thing, is that apparently they were eviscerated in the murder, but then they got their bodies back. The families had their bodies back.
Right.
And they said that they weren't that bad. They said there wasn't that much damage because they've been shot at Canary
Like
Wharf.
in Four Lions, where they just have to go pick up pieces of sheep. And he's just in a bag. There you go, there's your son. But that's just a bag of mush. Yeah, that's the rest of him.
But they didn't do that.
In there too.
They didn't do
that didn't blow up.
They didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't do that. They got intact bodies.
Yeah, they had them intact and that.
So how? But they apparently on the day they were eviscerated and they didn't
Glue
have the
them back
bodies. They
together.
didn't find the bodies. Didn't find the back. It's crazy. The whole thing for me is, and I'm meant to be in the middle, going like, this is like this. This is like this. Oh, I see that. But I was completely like, I'd watched so much. I've read so much. And
it's just too much.
It just reeks. It reeks so much of like
inside job.
How can we use this incident that, and I don't even think it's an inside job. I genuinely think it was an accident on the tube, and they went, how can we use this
to project? To go to war.
To get
this is convenient. Let's just use this as a step up for the war.
But it's the same way. Exactly the same way I feel about 9/11. They maybe something happened, maybe it was a terrorist attack, but how do they use that to the best of their abilities to go to Iraq? Iraq had nothing to do with Bin Laden.
And Saddam Hussein.
It's mental.
So, okay, my last piece of evidence that I have that stood out massively with 7/7 is the Black Jaguar that appears in CCTV footage on a dummy run, and also the morning at Luton Station. So again, like I've said before, I'm reading.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this.
I'm reading a few off of a script that I've detailed information about it, and also it can be seen in the Seeds of Deconstruction documentary. So on the 28th of June, Tanweer, Lindsay, and Khan enter Luton Car Park Station. What was considered a dummy run. In the CCTV footage, it shows a black Jaguar that's parked in an odd position horizontal to the parking lines. So the CCTV footage is overlooking this long car park of Luton train station. You see them walking, Tanweer and Khan walking up the side, and Lindsay pulls in his, I can't remember what car he had. It's like Fiat Brava or something like that. Like they're doing a dummy run. Closest to the CCTV camera, there's like a black Jaguar sat there in an odd position, completely like not even in any car parking spaces across them. So this was considered their dummy run, the 28th of June. On the 7th of July, the morning that it happened, Jermaine Lindsay enters the Luton train station car park at 6:50. There is then an 88-second gap in which the same black Jaguar is seen parked in the same position. So on the CCTV, when you see them pulling down the side on the main road to turn into the Luton train station, there's no black Jaguar. 88 seconds go missing on the CCTV footage. Again, this is within the documentary that we've seen. It will be included in the document in the Discord. 88 seconds are missing. The same black Jaguar is parked in the same position that it was on the 28th of June. On the 7th of July, the same car, okay? Now, within 2 minutes of the black Jaguar arriving, we see a Tanweer appear in his Nissan Micra. Sorry, got the car switch around. Tanweer had a Micra, not the... Oh, no,
Brava.
sorry. Lindsay had the Fiat Brava. Tanweer, Hussein and Khan that are coming down from Leeds are in the Nissan Micra. So they enter the car park. Within 2 minutes of the black Jaguar arriving, we see Tanweer's Nissan Micra arrive, to which upon entering visibility of CCTV camera, the black Jaguar begins to pull off towards both of the cars. So as soon as they get into the car park, this Jag then starts pulling back round in the same manner that it did in the 28th of June. Goes around, very, very odd.
Are you saying that it's either duplicate footage or that Jaguar is involved somewhere?
The Jaguar is involved in somewhat. So there is now a 76...
That's way more interesting.
There's now a 76-second gap. Once the CCTV footage resumes, the black Jaguar is nowhere to be seen. However, in the distance where you see the Brava and the Micra parked together, there is also a new black vehicle parked next to them. From the distance and the quality, you cannot tell what that car is, whether it's the Jaguar or whether it isn't. So, on the 28th of June, on the dummy run, the black Jaguar is seen parked in a very odd position in the car park. Tanweer, Khan and Lindsay are seen walking up the side of the road outside Luton train station, like they're eyeing it up. They're planning what's going on. It can only be assumed they're planning because the three of them are at the train station where they have to go to get to Kings Cross. Then on the 7th of July, when they actually all arrive in the morning, there's an 88-second gap, the moment that we see them arriving at the train station, to which then the black Jaguar is suddenly there. You don't see it enter the car park. Why? Where's the 88 missing seconds? What happened during the 88 seconds? During that time, we then see them parked, and then the black Jaguar's like there. So we didn't see him arrive. Did he pull in, drop something off with the cars that are then parked, and then park there? Why? Anything's possible at this moment.
I think, for me, it seems like they've just duplicated the footage from the dummy run, and that Jag had nothing to do with it.
I was just thinking there.
When you go back and when you look in the documentary at the CCTV footage, they're both different. The CCTV footage is ever so slightly at a different angle. Ever so slightly. Being someone in editing, you notice these tiny little things. Ben will agree. Again, you can see it in Seeds of Deconstruction. So within the 2 minutes of the black Jaguar arriving, we see Tanweer's Micra come in, and upon to which entering visibility of the CCTV camera, the black Jaguar pulls off towards both of the cars. There's then a 76-second gap. Then there's a new car parked by the side of them both. The black Jaguar has never been brought up as evidence, nor have the police ever investigated who or what that car was and why it was there on the dummy run, as well as the day they committed the atrocities. Why?
Peter Power, isn't it? Peter Power.
But it's again, a glare. It stood out so much to me.
Again, going back into routine and stuff. That could be where that black Jaguar parks every day before he goes to work.
Different times. The dummy runs are at a different time of day than
Yeah.
But then again, if you park your car in the station and then drive,
you can't park.
He's not parked in he's horizontal, to the parking lines.
He'd get a ticket every day.
Yeah.
NCP would fuck him up.
but if he's got a Jaguar, he's probably pretty rich.
It's not the point, though, is it?
It's probably Peter Power.
It's a car. It's a car that's parked in an inconspicuous location and acts in the same manner on each day, on the separate days. It just happens to be there when they just happen to be there and parked in an odd manner both times. The coincidence in that, I bet it's got a lot of zeros at the end of it. Like the odds of that occurring.
Zero.
So,
is there a possibility that it was used, if it was used for the cover up? Is it a possibility? Does it hide license plates? Does it hide possible things behind the car?
You can't.
You say it pulls, but the other car pulls behind it.
Right. Within that missing minute, a new car is parked behind the Micra and the Fiat Brava, which contains all four of them, like each of their cars. This new car appears.
The missing minute is the
where is it?
Flag.
Why is it missing?
Yeah, why? And also as well, if they were carrying, so if they were told that they were doing a dummy run, like a War Games type scenario, you wouldn't drive, like I said before, you wouldn't drive all the way from Beeston with bombs. Like
you mentioned that a Micra's tiny.
Yeah,
right? And also
three of you, three massive backpacks, spare trousers.
Yeah, spare trousers, because Tamweir suddenly changes his white ones. Do you know what I mean? And as well, two of them, I think, Lindsay was quite young, and Hussein, who was on the bus, allegedly, he was quite young as well. But so I'd find it very weird that, like, even at their homes, that they'd be like, "Son, what have you got that whacking great backpack for? Like, why are you going to Luton at like this time?"
And why have you got 12 bottles of bleach?
Right. And Ben mentioned earlier as well that allegedly there was a car found with like 12 explosive devices inside the
Yeah, but then totally never reported on ever again.
So was it that car? Did that car supply them the bombs?
The Jag. Yeah. Because you don't see the backpacks on the way down. Oh, we've cracked it. The Jag did it.
The Jag did it. Done. But that's what I'm saying. That's one piece of evidence that has never been further reported. But the CCTV was released, and it was shown at the inquest where they decided what the actual story was. They showed the dummy run and the incident, the morning of the incident, and you're telling me that someone amongst all the jury has not sat there and been like, "What's going on with that car? Like, why is that parked there at that time on that day in that way?" And also, it's parked in the same place in that weird way that it shouldn't be on that day as well. Like, we might want to have a look at him, and there's a missing gap where he drives towards the cars, and now he might be parked next to them, or they might be parked behind him, but we can't see because there's 88 seconds missing.
Any time that there's missing minutes of CCTV, something
something's
dodgy
up.
Is happening.
Yeah, something's up.
Something is up. Any time there's missing CCTV footage it doesn't just cut out.
You're telling me
it's dodgy.
You're telling me McDonald's outside King's Cross hasn't got CCTV going in at that time in the morning? Have you seen how busy that gets there?
And no witnesses.
Yeah. Nobody's able to sit there and be like, I saw him.
There's no witnesses. There's no witnesses except for that fucking dodgy Roger guy, or whatever his name, Richard Jones. He's the only witness in the whole thing that says someone who was Muslim set off a bomb in a bag. There's no witnesses through the whole thing that there was a bomb in a bag and someone set it off.
You have some
way for it.
You have some people in interviews that sit there and say, "Oh, I do remember someone with a big backpack." Really? Because a lot of people seem to have forgotten where they were going, like to work, when this explosion went off. But you remember that minor detail of a packed London tube train in the morning, that you remember that one dude was playing with his bag.
And there's no way you can get on at King's Cross and get a seat.
Yeah, no way. Bullshit. All the seats are always taken.
This is just a shit advertisement for London, really. You're not selling it to me.
Yeah. Welcome to London, where you'll probably get mugged,
blown up, and the guy will be fiddling with his bag.
Underappreciated.
It sounds all of those
shithole.
All of those pieces of evidence, just like remembering those small details, is just bollocks to me. No way. There is no way that incident occurred. And that you're just like, oh yeah, that guy did put his bag down in a weird position. But no, because a lot of people ended up reporting that there was explosions either from underneath or above the train.
Or above. And there's holes in the floor over the whole carriage.
That are peeling up. Yeah, there's like holes peeling up
and
through
people
the floor.
fell into holes. Yeah.
But yeah, that...
dodgy as fuck.
That concludes my notes with the Black Jaguar incident. That one, I left that last because that's the biggest red flag for me. That this one Black Jaguar that nobody in the whole inquest has sat there and been like, might want to investigate that. That looks a bit wonky because we've also got missing CCTV and does sound a bit iffy. Nah, I'm sorry. There was someone... That Black Jag is complicit in whatever happened that day. Complicit.
My go-to is... This is probably because I haven't dug so deep into it, but immediately when I watched Ripple Effect, I think it was Ripple Effect, was fucking Richard Jones. Like,
yeah,
I was on the bus, I got off just before it exploded. I used to work in a bomb factory. I've got extensive knowledge of making bombs, but we never made those bombs. We never made the bombs that was used, but I know how to make them. I just never used them.
And an Arab man was seen fiddling with the top of his bag just before I got off the train.
Yeah. Also,
the bus. But he was sitting nowhere near where the bomb could have gone off.
Right. So, and he's go on, JJ.
The bus. So there was reports that there was 80 people on the bus. 80.
Right.
Like double-decker bus, 80.
Yeah.
Oh, the woman on the top deck. So there was pictures after the explosion of people. It was like a shit cartoon of people.
Yeah, they were sitting on the top of it
with like black faces, like a bomb just like blown up in their face, but they were wearing goggles and they take their goggles off, and there's just like black rings. And the woman's just like, she said, and I just turned around and there must have been 6 inches of the floor missing.
That's it, like, falling off the back.
The metal blew up behind you. You were completely fine. But it was only 6 inches away from where the floor had collapsed. I was just like...
Yeah.
And if you see the picture of that bus, there's no blood on anything. There's no, like, debris on that. That bus is just...
There is, like, a splatter on the wall, but it doesn't look like blood.
Splatter.
It looks like a Leeds Fest toilet. It looks like someone has literally just sharted, which you probably would. You're probably, like, waiting for your bus, like, oh, I'm so tired, and then just shit hits the floor and then hits the wall.
There's a bloke there that is claimed to be injured who's got a perfectly clean white shirt on as well.
But he's got blood on his face,
He's got a whacking great hole in his head.
But his shirt is completely clean. If anyone's worn a white shirt anywhere, if you look at a cup of coffee, it's over your shirt. You can't go wear a white shirt and not have it covered in shit by the end of within a couple of hours.
Yeah, that was a guy that was in the... he was actually a passenger, wasn't he, in the Daily Mail? He was quoted in saying they'd witnessed police taping off the area before the explosion had happened. And Luis Fernandez, his name was. He's a cameraman. I think that's what he said his job was. And he said the whole scene looked like it was staged. And he said the guy in the suit had several injuries and didn't have a spot of blood on his shirt. And he was like, just looked weird. Like in his interview, he's like, it just looked a bit weird. It was like.
He said, I wouldn't be surprised if I turned around and saw a man on a cherry picker with a massive light, like lighting the whole thing. It was that perfectly done.
He was a taxi driver, right?
Pulled around the corner.
No, he was a cameraman.
He was on the bus.
Yeah, he was on the bus.
I saw he was on the bus.
Oh no.
Same story though.
But he said, he pulled around the corner. The bus was guided into this quiet street, and then it went off. He said it was Hollywood perfection the way it was done. By
Again, though,
which police was the thing
in London, do you? Because obviously I've pretty much lived up north my whole life, but in London, do you not walk around London and just expect people to be filming shit? So again, would there be any sort of things in your head like, you know, you'd be like, oh, they're filming an episode of The Bill?
You know was. But because they wouldn't do it at rush hour.
Yeah,
they wouldn't do it at rush hour.
And plus, you wouldn't even be able to walk in that area.
Permissions.
Yeah, it'd be cornered off completely, right?
Yeah, there'd be runners, and they would have gone like, you just wouldn't let you through. So
going back onto Richard Jones, the guy. So
I've got 2 quotes from him that don't add up.
He is, for somebody who's just experienced essentially like an explosion on a bus he's just been on, like I'd be like, oh my God.
80 people flying everywhere.
Yeah, and I'd be like, oh my God, I've nearly died. He's literally on this park bench just like, I used to work in an explosion factory and, you know, I know how to...
It seems really calm and collected.
And he also says that he's got friends in fucking... Sinn Féin or some shit.
Yeah,
he's like my best friend who I worked with was like actually like the head bomb maker for Sinn Féin or fucking the IRA or whatever.
Getting towards 7/7 bingo right now. Like, all right, you're a bomb expert, terrorist group. Yeah. Okay, right. You were next to him. Oh. Like,
yeah, exactly. And they're just waiting for that last sort of number to be called. And he went, and you got off the bus just before it blew up.
Yeah, wow. Just before. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, what a coincidence. And he was also saying that Hussein, he said that he was wearing hipster-style fawn-checked trousers with exposed designer underwear and a matching jersey-style top. And then in another interview where he's asked to explain what the bomber looked like, he says, he was about 6 feet tall, olive-skinned, clean-shaven, wearing light brown trousers and a light brown top.
A bit different from his tartan trousers that he was wearing.
Right.
Like, I think that would be a red flag for me. I'd be like, is that guy wearing tartan trousers?
Was he on the bus?
It'd be a punk blew up there. Yeah. Someone from who's on his way to Camden.
Bloody youth with their
going to the World's End at 9 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, to the fact that it just adds to it the fact that he got off the bus.
Richard Jones planted that bomb.
Yeah, he got off the bus before, like JJ said, and shit. What was the other glaring thing I was just about to say? Oh crap! It's just escaped me. So he got off the bus before.
His friend was in the fucking IRA or whatever. I was just like, you don't. It's like, I worked in a bomb factory. Didn't know how to make bombs, but my friend is in the IRA. I'm like,
he knows how to make them.
He does. I bet he fucking knows how to make them out of a car battery, a fillet of fish, and a fucking, you know what I mean, and a backpack.
To me, it sounds like he's a distraction piece or a person, in my opinion.
He had something to do. With that bomb going off. Yeah. It was like
trying to be a disinformant.
Can just say. Yeah, just disinformation. Let's get that bomb off. Let's get that bomb going off.
Yeah,
we'll trick a bus driver. We'll empty the bus out. Like, how many deaths were there on that bus?
13, I think. Around on the bus area was 13.
And
13 people were killed on the bus.
Yeah,
right. So at that time in the morning, there's going to be so many people on that bus.
The woman said there was 80 people on the bus. 80. She said there was
nobody
80
got
people.
Camera. Did suddenly I know back then, not many people...
Again, CCTV gone again.
Yeah, no CCTV
also,
on the bus.
This is where I come into play. This is the thing for me where I was just like, surely this is just coincidence. The fucking photo on the front page of the press, or the papers, absolute pure terror. It said on the post, did you see the poster? And I was like, surely not. And then but ideas like that, which conspiracy people jump on, immediately make you look like an idiot. So you start going, oh my God, look, they even planned how the bus exploded, so it said pure fucking terror. And things like that make you look stupid. So us talking about it now, and I say, oh yeah, this is my favourite part, because I'm the idiot. Like that's my role in this. I'm the fucking idiot who believes that shit.
But then it comes back to is that put in there to make you feel like that because, like, look at Darren Brown and the way he puts things in people's minds.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, he would have done that. He would have put that little thing in there to make everyone, like, someone would have picked up on that.
Think about it,
Oh, God, yeah, Chip, yeah.
Well, he does mention that seeding.
I didn't say terror.
He does mention that in lots of his things about seeding stuff, especially the bank robbery one.
Seeding, yeah.
So
it's just... It's subliminal, and like as silly as it sounds to bring it up, who's not to think that someone's gone, we need to do this, this, and this, and it will make it more real. It will make people feel more
just to sort of tell people watching how serious seeding is. Like Orange, the mobile phone company, got taken to court in the I think it was like 2010, something like that.
Right.
They got taken to court because in cinemas, Orange were paying Warner Brothers Cinemas and View Cinemas at the time to put Tango and Revels and like Dorito cheese flavored crisps on the top shelves.
Okay.
So that because all their packagings are orange.
Oh, of course, right.
And they were paying Warner Brothers to put them on the top shelves.
I never knew that.
To seed Orange. That case got quickly shifted out of court. In fact, it was earlier than 2010 because I studied at university.
That's crazy.
There's a really good marketing book about it. But that quickly got... And then Orange sued the media for posting the story. So basically, they got sued for loads of money. And then they
sued the media back.
And then they sued the media because they were like, well, we've paid the money now. We've paid it out. You shouldn't be telling people about this. So the book, I'll find out the book's name, but it was called like The Great Marketing Scam. It's quite a good book, but it just shows you how little you take note of things. Like the film They Live. Is it They Live?
Yes. They Live,
yeah. Piper.
There you go. I've got the alien tattoo on my wrist.
Nice.
Yeah, big fan of it. Yeah, subliminal messaging. It doesn't. It'll make you.
Sorry, go on.
No, it will make you think the fact that just the convenience of the poster on the side of the bus itself. Very, and the whole seed thing is a thing that
even if it's not, there's still enough evidence to show that governments know this shit with MK Ultra and stuff like that. They know about this stuff. They've been researching. The reason we know it is because they've done research on it and then it's been turned into something else.
Yes, yeah.
So, I mean, even if it's got nothing to do with it, you still got to think, oh, maybe they did. Because they're just dodgy as fuck.
Yeah. So
all it comes down to, the whole thing comes down to is the whole thing is dodgy. It's definitely not been told the whole story, and that's why the Home Office have got this really weak timeline of events that changes when anyone else gets called out. Like that woman, she goes, well, why are you saying that the bomb went off in the first carriage? Because I was in that first carriage and it didn't go off in the first carriage. 2 weeks later, updated, it went off in the second carriage. So they just moved it along a carriage.
yeah, totally. So, and it's kind of a good way to segue into like the ending as to what everybody's sort of like idea is. So clearly, Ben.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yes, JJ, go. Yes.
Obviously, you guys used to use the tube quite a lot, like quite regularly, I guess. So, how fast do they travel?
Very quick. It depends what line you're on, but between certain stations, it can fly.
But just a roughie.
Oh, I could, what?
50, 60 miles an hour?
60, I was going to say 60. Yeah, they do fly, mate.
If the event of the bomber being on the train, so have you ever heard the theory of like why when you're inside a train carriage, when you jump, you land in the same spot? Because obviously you're the
contained environment, yeah.
But when you're on the top of the train and you jump, you don't land in the same spot.
Yeah.
So if a bomb explodes, surely the energy of the bomb is concentrated to that area. So why wasn't there more casualties? Because if it was rammed, everybody behind is traveling into that energy, like literally like 80 miles an hour or 60 miles an hour straight into a bomb explosion. So, for instance, if it was underneath it would literally have probably brought the train to a halt, which at 50 miles an hour would still probably do you some damage. You don't have a fucking seatbelt on, do you? When you're on the tube, you're not like, strap in. You're usually just like held in by someone's like body mass and sweat.
Yeah, it's so true, yeah.
I purely think that the amount of eyewitness reports and victim testimonies is quite low.
Considering,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's quite a, considering like there was like over like 130 injuries or whatever. How many was it?
52 people died, didn't they?
52 people died, and no one's come forward from those families going, yeah, like the injuries they had, and there's no report on those injuries. There's no like, there's a few people that have lost their legs and they've come forward, but like,
you look at
as many as
you look at the images of Hussein leaving King's Cross. That is London, especially King's Cross, quite possibly the busiest station or one of the top 3 busiest stations in London at that time.
Liverpool Street, Paddington, yeah.
And Ben's saying that there is such a small volume of like testimonies from people. Fucking how the fuck isn't there more people sitting there going, I was on that train at that time, I'm going to go to blah 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 and speak to them. Surely the news media would love all of that stuff.
Thousands. There would be thousands and thousands. If it is 4 trains or 3 trains, if it's 3 trains, and you've also got 70 people that didn't die on that bus.
Right. Yeah.
So let's say there's probably about at least 4,000 people that were involved in that.
Yeah.
4,000 people that.
And you're telling me that on that bus as well, and I know that was like, it was 2005. Are you telling me that not one person actually had like a phone camera at that time on that bus and was like, fucking hell, like, I need to take a few pictures of this? Because we've never seen pictures of strewn bodies everywhere, like of that bus particularly. You've seen a couple of images inside the underground, like, granted, all right, probably people's like last thing you're thinking about is documenting it.
2 or 3.
Yeah,
2 or 3.
2 or 3. The last thing you're thinking, you barely see any whatsoever of all the people that are involved. And a train that's probably going about 60 mile an hour or so, that is then an explosion that then obviously derails, grinds to a halt. There's going to be loads of people that are going to be bringing out their phones and snapping this and snapping that when they're walking through the tunnels. Why is there
You've been on the tube that stops suddenly, man. Everyone just falls forward, like, you know, you're going to be hurt.
Yeah.
And I just feel like the amount of casualties for the amount of destruction that was meant to have happened, it seems
not plausible.
Very low.
Yeah.
And the amount of people that come forward is so low.
Yeah.
You would have thought you would have met someone that knew someone.
Yep.
That was involved, that was on it. I was leaving Liverpool Street Station as they started putting the shutters down. I didn't feel a bomb. I heard an alarm going off. But if it happened at Liverpool Street Station and I was walking through Liverpool Street Station when the alarm started going down and they started putting the shutters down to close the station, I would have felt something.
Yeah,
I would have felt something. Either side, because I walked through Aldgate East to Liverpool Street towards Moorgate and Old Street. I would have been on the path where I would have felt something, and I never felt anything. And that, when I think about it now, I think, actually, yeah, I probably would have felt a rumble. You hear, like, I live near Foulness Island in Southend-on-Sea, and I hear bombs going off, and they are 10 miles away, and I feel bombs going off sometimes. Yeah, it's a firing range, and I used to live really close to that, like 3 miles away, and it would shake the entire house if the bomb went off. Yeah. If when bombs went off.
I mean, didn't figure the thing.
For me to walk through Liverpool Street Station and not hear or feel anything, just have the alarm going off, you're like, oh, I sprinted through and got out. And then I got back to work, turned the telly on, and like there was power surges. Yeah. I was like, oh, I nearly got electrocuted. And then 3 hours later, bombs.
Is there any signal on the underground? So, like,
no, you don't get a thing, mate. You don't get a thing.
Back then.
But is there any phone calls from people on the buses or like?
Not from what I never heard of anything. Never.
Because I mean, after 9/11, there was like people like they fucking fill Channel 4 with it every year of like 2 hour, 3 hour documentaries of phone calls just to keep it like, you know.
I was working at Luton Square around the corner from Tavistock Square. I heard the bus go off. I physically heard it with my ears. I was in a paper shop getting rolling tobacco. And after the incident had occurred, it was about an hour, well, even less than an hour, if I remember rightly. your signals were gone on your phone. They had shut down all mobile masts around the city entirely. You couldn't call anyone for hours.
I think you'll find, Dean, that they had diverted non-essential calls to make sure that people could, the emergency services could be alerted.
Yeah.
But then they all know where it is.
Right.
The bomb's gone off the here.
Yeah.
But I mean, 2005 was like pre-iPhone, so it wasn't like great phone footage.
No. Oh God, no. It was terrible. But
there was no Wi-Fi. There was no Wi-Fi on the tube or anything like there is now.
So it's.
But there would have been more.
No, yeah, I totally agree. Then there should be so much more evidence than what there is and testimony, but there isn't. There really isn't. Not as many as you would anticipate. At all.
But I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know what that means to the story.
Right, no, neither do I. It just seems a bit weird. It's just a discrepancy that's just jumps out at you. It just doesn't seem right. But
there's so much. Like, another thing, and I definitely want to get this in there, and I think as we're talking about discrepancies and just the things that don't feel right, Benjamin Netanyahu, Israeli finance minister, was alerted to a possible terrorist attack an hour before. He was there for G8. He was alerted an hour before,
and that's his own words.
No one else, but apparently no one else knew anything about it. There was no rumors. There was no one warning anyone.
He was told to not leave.
Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah, he was told.
Chair broke.
He was told not to leave his hotel.
Stop talking about Benjamin Netanyahu, Lynn. You're never gonna meet him.
He was told to not leave his hotel room an hour before the explosion. That was his own words.
So this now
you're never gonna meet him.
This now links in with the some of the theories that I heard about the Zionist kind of thing, which doesn't really get spoken.
It always comes back to the Zionist.
But some people do believe that it was implemented by the Jews, didn't they, to direct hatred towards the Muslims? Because
really? I've not heard that.
Was it
every conspiracy theory goes back to Zionist Jews?
Mossad or Mossad?
Mossad,
yeah, I've heard of Mossad. Yeah,
but he was, or one of the representatives was with Benjamin Netanyahu in the same hotel, and they were down in the reception area. And apparently, his I can't remember what the guy's name is, but his security guard, his bodyguard, basically made the hotel close the front doors. Because they believed that it was going to be targeted, so they believed that they knew that they were in there.
Gotcha.
It very briefly gets talked about in the two documentaries that we're kind of mainlining, but some of the other documentaries that I watch do mention it quite a lot. So it might be, for the viewers, it might be worth looking into that a little bit as well. Because I mean, I wish I'd have spoke about this earlier on, and then we could have had a look at this. But there is some wild theories going around that it was a Jewish agenda,
Jewish-led attempt, to
put more hatred against the Muslims.
Is there a conspiracy theory out there that doesn't have someone trying to blame the Jews? Someone's always trying to blame the Jews for something.
I mean, there's people who claim that The Matrix is a Jewish propaganda film, don't they? Which is hilarious.
To start wrapping it up now, then Ben. Go ahead.
I'm just going to see if there's any more. I'm going to see if there's any more notes I've made. Going back to the history lesson that Dean gave you guys earlier, Operation Gladio was actually the overall encompassing thing, which was to infiltrate different, what would you call them? Different
power
groups
bottom
of people around the globe. So Operation Gladio was a thing done by the US government to infiltrate different armies and different parties around the world and radicalize them, and then cause an explosion or cause something like a false flag, and then incite war. So Operation Gladio, you should look into that, and that's kind of like the all encompassing thing of false flags.
It's like a template, a dummy's guide.
Yeah.
Are you
it
a
is,
new
and they use
government?
it all the
Follow
time.
this.
Yeah. The Benjamin Netanyahu thing, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's
and
weird.
the fact that the bombs are like meant to be like military grade, and there's no way you could have made them at home. And if you did make them at home, then any of the descriptions that eyewitnesses gave wouldn't match with the explosions that a homemade bomb would make. Like
Right.
a homemade peroxide bomb would not cause a flash or a flame
Unless it was
would
satellite,
it's more
right?
it's an expansion from solid to gas.
Yeah.
Whereas C4 or something like that would explode with a flame.
Yes, yeah,
Whereas a peroxide bomb, if you light it, it will
flashes.
flash.
Yeah.
But if you detonate it just expands.
Yeah.
Like, it would just be like dust.
So then, yeah.
So that's another thing.
So then
He explained it
survivors,
like an airbag on a car.
yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
So that doesn't corroborate. That doesn't coincide with survivors' testimony saying that, oh, I saw a huge flash and I saw flames and I've got burnt. Whereas the bombs that they allegedly had.
With it, I think that's why the power surge thing stands out to me so much, because you do get burnt with electricity.
Right,
You do
yes.
see flashes.
Yeah.
But with homemade peroxide bombs, you
Don't get it.
see flame.
Yeah.
Unless you mix it with pepper or masala powder.
Oh, right,
which
yes, yeah.
There's no evidence, but there's no evidence to show
Quickly
that
nipped to
it's
the
mixed with
takeout.
pepper or.
how stereotypical could this be?
Yeah, I know. It literally is a
Yeah.
Four Lions movie.
A bloody curry
Yeah.
bomb.
But yeah, so my view on the whole thing is that this is an accident that then was capitalized on by a government that wanted to go to war.
Yep.
And then like a controlled explosion on a bus
So,
to kind of solidify it, suicide bombers.
yeah.
Straight in. Islam would blame straight away for something that has never been claimed by any faction of any fundamentalist. Like, no one's ever claimed it.
Yeah, no one's claimed it.
No one's claimed
And
it. No one's claimed it.
to summarize myself is exactly the same as Ben. Well, there's, in the sense of that it was an accident that had occurred that then the government has jumped up upon, but also I still believe there's something up with that
Or
MI5.
MI5.
Or MI5. But that's what I'm saying. That's why the Black Jaguar sticks out to me the most. And there's so much wrong with that makes me think that these guys were being led into a false exercise, but were then used as like, we really want to get in the Iraq War, but we need a fucking reason. Hold on a minute. Let's see if this exercise, like, get together, but they'll actually have military people involved within it. And then these three I'll go to these locations, and then someone will meet you and say, was you ever approached and asked if you were blah, blah, blah? No, I wasn't. Thank you for participating in our event. We'll take the bags from you. We'll go. But instead, these devices went boom. Hussein, the bus bomber, realised that something was definitely up about it. That's why his story and his journey is so odd and messed up. Like, he must have been reacting in a blind panic, and as well, this device has exploded, and it was a plan all along. So it was either the huge mistake that has been capitalised on by the government, or it was actually fabricated by the government entirely. I don't believe it was a terrorist attack.
I kind of agree with you both to an element. I don't necessarily think that it was the way that a lot of the things were being said, i.e., if someone gave you a backpack or you took a backpack, you would look at it. You would look inside it. So
yes.
I agree that those guys were planted there. I think they were made to. I don't think they had bombs. I don't think they had bombs in their backpack. A lot of the witness testimony said that the explosion did come from the floor, whatever. A lot of people died. We're not denying that. We're not like we're not making light of that. But we're trying to
It's
make
a terrible
light
thing
of
that happened.
of the fact that the government isn't on the people's side. It's there for its own thing, and it helps if the people are on its side by being complacent
complicit.
Being complicit.
Complicit, you idiot!
And then there's people like us who like try and, I mean, obviously we are the first to the party with this, but you know,
of course. Well, we're keeping it alive at least.
Currently the most recent to the party.
Yeah. And not another conspiracy cast. I nearly pointed the wrong way then. Not another conspiracy cast. That's a fucking conspiracy. But yeah, I agree with you. There's a few things that still need to be checked out, but it won't happen again. It's too far. I mean, for instance, the passport, like the passport photos, they're all very well, same as 9/11, they're all very well conveniently burned until they get to the photograph. Why do the passports never land the other way around, where the photograph's burnt and then all the rest of it's fucking...
Right, yeah.
They always land with the photograph the furthest part away, and then you probably get somebody like, well, if you find the photograph's been put in there, it's a little bit more weighted to that end, so an explosion would project it further out, so, you know, and it's like, nah, his body was obliterated.
It would burn... Yeah, his passport would not have survived.
Like, his fucking body was mush and his passport was fine. But it wasn't just a picture, just so you knew it was him.
They should make the planes out of what they make the passports.
I was just saying, why don't they start making fucking bulletproof passports? They're like, they always tell us they're our most important document, yet it's made of fucking paper. Like, you know, like, does anyone remember the fucking national insurance card? Has anyone still got their national insurance card? No, because it snapped into a million pieces because it was made out of the flimsiest piece of plastic, and it's the most important number you've got. But I'm with you on the fact that government's just a fucking shit out there. So I don't believe those guys knew what they were doing if they did, you know, blow something up.
Yep.
So yeah.
So we're all in agreement that the government are fucking dodgy as fuck.
Especially Tony Blair and his fucking wife, rubber-faced wife.
But yeah,
it just feels like it was the excuse they needed to get into Iraq, to join America going to Iraq. It just
absolutely.
It was so perfectly timed. Like they were just about to lose everything. They were about to, like, you know, the elections were coming up. Like it was.
Always election year.
Well, we're gonna do an episode on Bilderberg, but in the meantime, I would highly suggest people researching the Bilderberg group, just so you can be with us in this movement, because they are the fucking biggest corrupted
them trilateral committee, all of them.
Yeah. And people think you're fucking mental when you're like, these people get together behind closed doors and talk about how unimportant we all are as humans, just so they can make more money. And everyone's like, fuck off, no.
Do you think they're really do you think they're really discussing just how their wife and kids are and just having a drink every now and then? Of course they are.
But none of it's allowed to be filmed.
Right, yeah, exactly.
They're drinking the blood of children that they've captured and shipped across the world.
It'll all come out, especially soon.
Which leads us on to the subject of next week's episode, which is secret societies. Ooh. It's not going to be as in-depth on each of them, but I think we're going to do a nice little episode on secret societies. Some fun.
A little bit more chill.
A bit more chill. This has been a full-on week of... I mean, there's still a whole week of mental investigation and research to do for us.
Right, yes.
Yeah, we should bring some... I think we're going to do some secret societies, some fun, some more
darker,
nefarious, and a bit of darkness, a bit of fun, a bit of lightheartedness in there. But we've got a Discord server now that you guys can join and join the chat, join in some of the conspiracy, I think kind of bring some stuff to the table.
Yeah, I think what would be best is you could find the Discord invite pinned at the top of our Twitter timeline. I think that's probably the best place for people to find it.
Yeah. Or in the link to the YouTube video.
Yes, in the YouTube video, yes,
and
of course.
In the description. But yeah, follow us on Twitter at AnotherCon, on Instagram, at not another con on Instagram. Not another conspiracy on Instagram. Not another con on Twitter. We've got a Facebook group, Facebook page, and then our email address. If you've got anything you want to send that isn't on the, I don't know,
there's a fucking hate mail.
Not another conspiracy podcast at gmail.com.
Excellent.
Anything else you guys want to say before we sign off?
No, I think I'm done. And watch the movie Four Lions.
Yeah. And just thank you for the response last week for the first one. It was
absolutely, yeah. The response has been
really
great.
Good feedback. So, and hopefully we've given you a little more reason not to trust what is told to you in the general narrative.
Question everything.
Yeah, don't trust anything.
Don't trust no one.
Never trust a Muslim who goes to McDonald's at breakfast time.
Yeah,
because they don't serve anything.
And remember, if there's a gap in CCTV footage, they're hiding something from you.
Yeah, 80 seconds of absolute carnage.
Exactly.
Until next week, thank you for listening. This has been Not Another Conspiracy Podcast.
No.